And we have 2 keepers of the gate here. We will be joined by more. And we gatekeep on purpose. Oh, we have another one. Bruce. Bruce. They call him Bruce.
Hello.
Let's see.
Hey, Bruce.
Nope. Let me do that. There we go.
Oh, yeah, that's the view I like. Oh, I can't pop out chat. I hate you, Twitch.
Comments. There we go. Hello, Baron G Rock. Right. So what we like to do is keep the gates, and what we mean by keep the gates is to curate our experiences and suggest you do the same. How's that?
All right.
Tonight we're going to talk about, I believe the proper title is Cosmology in our RPGs, and how we were going to make some suggestions on how we handle our imaginary religions and how they tie into cosmologies and cultures and stuff like that. And hopefully it'll be fun. And we'll do it without discussing real world religions and things.
Well,
I mean, there will be obvious parallels, though.
Right. It's some of the best things in the tabletop role playing game hobby are grounded in reality. That doesn't mean realism, but
you have to have something to grab a hold of that can. I mean, you can. I hate my ISP so much.
Do you use FrontierNet? Just a question.
Nope.
Okay, because your ISP works like FrontierNet does.
Yeah, it's Charter, so they might be a division of the same company.
Okay.
The same corporate, same parent company.
Frontier.
Yeah, you can.
Go ahead.
You can have whimsy. I think that whimsy has its place, but for me, only in small doses now and again.
So how do we want to start this off today? I was hoping OGGM's supposed to be here talking about some things, and I thought Heathen Dog was going to be here to talk about Call of Cthulhu.
Well, we can. Okay, so I thought that this topic was Bruce's. Was I mistaken?
Nope. It was his idea.
Okay, so how about we let Bruce do the lion's share of the heavy lifting? I will moderate now and again when people need to be brought back into inside the rails, let's say.
Okay. Well, I was going to go on kind of like a journalist rant or discussion about how the gods in these worlds, these fantasy worlds, they're not real. They're based on some real world, possibly gods. But in all honesty, this is something that's been around since 74 when they started publishing the game. And you had the ideologies of lawful, neutral, and chaos. And so you had these people trying to assign things there, and what type of society would have an orderly society who would be venerating this here. And then Gary started saying, well, you could cajole players of a cleric faith into doing a quest for the rest of the party, or doing the party a favor by getting them some much needed resources or favor within the community in the temple. And you would have this wonderful ability to just have a automatic hook to send your players out and to do stuff for their church or their community or the people that were involved with them. So I wanted to go at it from that standpoint, because primarily I am a dungeon master more than anything else right now. And I do see myself to where I use the temples and I use the power groups like that as to how to keep the players moving forward in their own little stories. Now, the deities themselves vary from world to world to world, and I primarily am going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons, but it applies to almost all RPGs where there is some sort of divine influence present. And why we would do this is because you would have an already, there would be a chromed up and shinied reason for players to have their heroes go down these paths. because maybe the player wants to get a promotion within the temple, or maybe the player wants to receive a little bit of favor to help his family out, or maybe more so the character is on a quest to discover themselves, and by doing these tasks, they start to uncover more about their own personalities. And I know this sounds like something that some people would be vomiting right now if I said this, but you would have a automatic way to get the characters out of the inn, out of the hotel, and out on the road looking for adventure or looking for this MacGuffin that the church sent them out for. Now, the cosmology, now that I've said that, the cosmology that we can talk about Greyhawk or Forgotten Realms, we can talk about Frog God Games or things from Mystara, etc. But or we can talk about the real world myths that were brought in deities and demigods, which many people from First Ed days still want to use in their games. And you see bits and pieces of these being broken off and inserted in this campaign here, and they're brought over in this campaign over here. And you have Mercury, and he's the messenger god. He's in this campaign over here. So you have all of these things in play, and the gods provide a reason for heroes and villains to exist, because the players are the chess pieces on the board. They're the ones being controlled, being pushed around, being nudged into play. And so you have that. And I want to talk about that because I think a lot of people don't like playing clerics, first off. A lot of people also don't like playing paladins, secondly, because of the lawful good requirement. But for players that like to actually play the game and don't mind, like, I know I'm going to be a pawn. I know that I'm going to be a piece of a larger puzzle. And I might be very insignificant, but I've got to push these 6 items into play. And maybe towards level 9 or level 13, I start going on artifact hunts because my god said so, or relic hunts, or whatever. But you want to have these things in your game and in play because it's one more avenue for the players to keep their player characters wealthy and able to do their experiments, able to craft, able to research spells, able to learn how to hammer a sword a better way, able to teach a new martial art discipline to their students. And you want to do that because it's part of a larger picture. I think the cosmology game in these campaigns is a lot of times overlooked. And very rarely do you find it being front and center, like in the Rod of 7 Parts, which was a Greyhawk box set that I loved back in 2nd edition. And nobody wants to play with that. As soon as they find out they've got the Rod of 7 Parts, drop it off at the next town. We don't want to have that. No. It points us to another spot on the map. And some players don't want to be kited. And that's understandable. But other players do like the idea of getting magical whatsits in exchange for doing a few tasks here and there, maybe sacrificing 3 or 5 feet of your small intestine, or maybe doing something or other that would be uncomfortable just so they can be safe and secure when it's time for them to rest and repair in their own homes or towers. Go ahead.
All right, hang on. So you're saying the fact that religion is involved, or a religious aspect.
Yes.
That they would treat the Rod of 7 Parts differently than the Deck of Many Things, even though technically I consider them both to be fucking radioactive.
Okay, Heathen, you are going in and out severely.
That is
notice me, Heathen Dog Senpai.
Hello. That is going to be happening for the next couple of minutes while my mic actually syncs up.
You gotta get that fixed, man.
It's not the mic. I swear to God, I changed the cord.
I'm glad to see Max is mostly alive.
Maybe Heathen's vocal cords have a varying strength, and as he's talking, they get stronger and weaker, stronger and weaker. Maybe that's what's going on.
Changes. Yeah.
Are you saying HD is a mutant?
Oh.
No. He's just going through a second puberty.
There you go. Midlife puberty crisis.
A lot of people, whenever they and Max, I'm glad to see that you're on your feet, or at least got on your feet long enough to get in the chair.
Mrs. Max just rolled them out.
I'm just going to say that you're comparing two different artifacts, HD, and I'm not saying how dare you, but I will say that the Rod of Seven Parts is vastly different than the Chernobyl radioactive horse shit of the 80s that the Deck of Many Things is. And the Deck of Many Things is usually found all in one set, or other bits have already been used and you'll never find those cards in the stack, but that's usually found in a bunch of 52 or less cards. The Rod of Seven Parts is something that you find, and all of a sudden, once you figure out what it does, it will start trying to nudge you towards this location over here for the next largest size, and maybe you'll use a legend lore spell to connect these two together and be able to use these 2 or 3 powers that are available within the rod.
Oh, okay. No, I think I understand what you're saying. You're actually saying that because the rod is intelligent, it's pushing you.
The rod is, and
yeah,
despite what you might otherwise think, if you research either the first ed or second ed or even the adventure, every time that the characters find themselves lost, they find themselves wandering back towards the direction of the next piece,
right,
in that puzzle.
Yeah,
and
it's
so
it's a whole like Eye of Vecna, Hand of Vecna type thing where, you know, it wants you to do what it wants you to do, and it's going to try and make you do it no matter what type thing.
Exactly.
But
are you saying the Deck of Many Things doesn't want you to draw from it?
No, it's actually the opposite. It's just as radioactive to characters, but characters are more likely to pull a frickin' card from the Deck of Many Things than they are to you know, follow a rod
Don't
piece.
look for another stick.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I mean, the Deck of Many Things has you know, half of it's going to screw you, half of it's going to screw you over bad. 20% of it's going to be great, and the other 30% is going to be meh. And I've had characters like, oh, I want to draw 5 cards, and I look at them like they got freaking 3 eyeballs, because that's
always I want to draw 5, and then it's like, okay,
yeah, like you're
now you're trapped in the middle of the earth.
Yeah,
you're all your possessions.
Whatever. Exactly, but the whole rod,
you want to keep.
Typically, that's only low-level characters that do that. High-level characters are too scared to touch the thing.
Yeah, I don't
lose a level. Characters are characters, man.
In my experience, high-level characters don't touch it because they put too much time invested in those characters, and they know what can come up. In fact, you almost have to force them to draw something from the deck.
Okay, well, with the same token, I would think that a high-level character wouldn't be as scared of the Rod of Seven Parts and where it leads. You know,
up until the point
that's motivation. Go ahead. The character might want to put it together and take it where it belongs. This belongs in a museum.
Okay,
well,
Andy.
Sure. Deck of Many Things might be looked at as a kind of a servant of chaos.
It's a monkey's
which
paw.
it kind of is.
Yeah.
And you want to keep it under lock and key, and then after you're dead and gone in a couple of thousand years, somebody's going to find that tomb or vault where you've put it at and overcome all of your safeguards, and then the chaos will begin again.
Well, yeah, I mean the Deck of Many Things, in my opinion, is the only reason Spelljammer was created, so you can throw that fucking thing into the sun. That's really
well,
all right, so
a Phlogiston and then fireball it once it gets about 7,500 meters away.
Right, so
you can throw magic items into a forge, or what do they call a furnace, whatever the hell they're called in Spelljammer.
Yeah,
that'll power you for a little bit.
Yeah. It actually you throw an artifact in there, it'll power the Spelljammer engine for a long time.
Yep. I mean, you could just find some nearby convenient volcano.
No,
even if it doesn't destroy the magic item, it'll be in the middle of a pool of lava.
Well, no. There's always that guy go, and you can't see it, but I'm pushing my glasses up with my finger in the middle. Well, there's always the volcanic convection in the mantle. It's just gonna pop up somewhere else in the world. You're not actually destroying it. Jesus Christ.
Uh-oh. Well, can't argue with that. Good night.
There you go. But anyway, getting back to the little cosmology.
Cosmology.
So, yeah, exactly. So because the Rod of Seven Parts has a will of its own, you are liking it to the will of a deity of some kind, and that's why people, in your experience, don't like to play clerics and to a lesser extent paladins, because they are beholden to a higher power beyond their own will, or they're not playing their character right, or the game master says, no, you're not playing your character right, you're gonna be punished, you lose all your spells, ha ha ha, stuff like that. Is that the gist? Am I around the point?
That's about 50% on the fairway there. And what I'll say that the reason why I liken it to these artifact hunts where the artifacts start taking over like the direction the party takes is because like there will be a point where if your character says, I want to be a devout cleric. Okay, so maybe you spend a holy day or a solstice in a reverie or in some sort of trance or meditation and start studying yourself to see how you can become more in tune with your deity or such. The entire time, the rest of the party is sitting there either forging new weapons or trying to teach classes at the gym for martial arts, or they're trying to research new spells, or God damn it, how long is this cleric going to take us? Our Band-Aid should not be doing this and ruining our party.
All right, yeah, well,
I don't want to have that.
Yeah, I get it. I've talked about that before. The whole downtime situation, especially when leveling up. You have months, weeks or months where people are leveling up, and now you get to do your own thing. Especially when you hit the level 9s, where you get a keep, you get worship, you get followers, you get whatever. Everyone during the downtime gets to do their own thing. Build your keep, build your church or your mission. Or you become a leadership in a thieves guild, whatever. Research new spells or make magic items, stuff like that. That's when all of that stuff can happen, and that's when all of it should happen. And that pretty much solves that little problem. But I think what what you're trying to say is the whole beholden to the god thing. I have not run into that, even when people have actually chosen, because I don't, me personally, I don't make people choose a deity. If you don't want to choose, you can just pray to God.
Yeah, I try not to force that on characters.
Yeah, but I do have the Legends and Lore book, and if you want to pray to a specific deity that fits in the campaign setting, then here's your choices. And if they choose one, they know that they get special abilities, above and beyond the normal cleric because of this, but they also have special limitations because of this. And they go with their eyes wide open. You can choose that, or you can choose your generic monotheistic God type being. And all you got to do is be your alignment, and God is happy with you.
Now,
that's great.
And the reason why I wanted to focus on cosmology so much is because there are some times when you have a game going on where you'll have a cleric or paladin or divine servant. They're in play, and you may want to interject part of a larger storyline, or what I call legacy storylines, where you have planned like a 3-year campaign in real time where the players will go through 2 or 3 different characters up to a certain level or age, retire them, and then move on. Or maybe you've got an idea where, like, I want to play through the Avatar series of Forgotten Realms, and I'm going to watch my...
Did someone mention the Avatar series?
Yeah, I want to watch my assassin guy in the party get absorbed into a god and watch that guy fume and have him re-roll a new character, because out of his control, this entire campaign just went to shit as far as he's concerned. And I want to have that sort of discussion where you might have a campaign that literally takes generations and characters for it to resolve itself. And even more importantly, where you have major events happen in the campaign world, and the players don't know this, or they might know this, but they're not using out-of-character knowledge, and they're able to either possibly enjoy themselves or really learn to hate the Avatar series at a new level of discontent.
So, cosmology.
That's what I was invited for.
So to me, and we can maybe all ring in on what we mean by cosmology, but cosmology is sort of the makeup of the I guess, multiple dimensions that where the gods live, or perhaps how the universe was created. It's basically the superstructure of the universe. And in a lot of ways, like with D&D, it's where the gods live, where the demons, the infernal powers live, where the elemental powers live. And depending on how deep you get in, it's also there's a shadow realm, or there's ethereal, or the astral. That's all part of a cosmology.
Correct.
But for most adventurers, what that structure is generally irrelevant. What's more relevant is the in-game world mythologies, legends, heroes of yore, and all that stuff that the characters would know about, and what would influence their local practices, holidays, and things of that nature. And that's the kind of stuff that Bruce is talking about that can engage the characters as a source on adventures. So the local temple has a thing, you go and take care of the thing. That's one source. There's multiple. You don't even need to have a local temple to have adventures, but it's a convenient source. So is that kind of what you guys are on board with for cosmology?
Well, if
it depends on the world.
Well, yeah, exactly. It depends on the world, and it depends on the character's background
And the story you want to tell.
And yeah, in the story you want to tell. But the part about the characters, with the character's background, they have to have similar backgrounds and have grown up with similar ideals. And then a cleric of a god that everyone is familiar with, no one is going to, poo-poo on him or his god, right? I mean, no, because they all grew up with it, they all know it. If you grew up, in India, you would understand Indian gods, and you would understand where your cleric is coming from, what his boundaries are, stuff like that. If you grew up in northern Scandinavian type places, you would understand Thor, Odin, and Frey, and all that stuff, and
sure.
All that stuff, and then you would know where your cleric's coming from. You would know where your cleric's going to draw the line or allow stuff, and as long as all the players are from the same culture, the cleric is going to have an easier time fitting in with what the party's going to do, because they all grew up with the same kind of thing. Like if you want to take a real life analog, if you put me, a Hasidic Jew, and say a Taoist monk in a party, we are going to clash at some point, because we're all going to look at the right thing in a different way and act in a different way, and the party is going to fracture. But if we're all from the same culture, then that problem is going to solve itself, because all of the characters are going to have the same background and come to the same gut conclusions, and the cleric is only going to exemplify that. People are actually go to him like a real priest for counsel and for advice, wisdom, stuff like that. Which a cleric, if you're role playing it properly, the characters at some point or another should probably do from time to time. If they don't, that means they don't respect you and you're doing something wrong. So you keep the party in the same framework, and that problem will solve itself. Now, the other problem is that some characters stay away from paladins, stay away from clerics, stay away from that stuff, because they don't want to be beholden to a higher power. They want to do what they want to do, and and that's all they want. And that's great. And they're like, why can't I play a cleric? And my answer would be, because you don't want to play a cleric.
Right.
Yeah, and that also solves itself. But why? Because you don't want to play a cleric. Yes, I do. Really, you don't. Really, you don't. because a cleric actually has to willfully give himself up to a higher power. If you don't,
I have never run into that situation that you mentioned there.
No, I ran into it one time. Where someone wanted to play a cleric because they like the spells and they like the abilities and they liked all that stuff. You know, I love the idea of turning undead, made them feel powerful and stuff like that. Like, hey, that's great. But then, you know, like God is going to, God, this isn't Buddy Christ, right? I mean, he's going to have a task for you every now and again, and you're going to have to answer the call. He's like, well, I don't want to do that. Well, then he's going to take away your powers. If you don't answer his call, he's going to take away. You are a servant of the Lord. That's what all clerics are. You are a servant of a higher power, whatever that higher power is. So if you don't answer the call, you're going to get smacked down for it.
Yeah.
Well, then that's not fair. No,
it's not fair. That's what
exactly. No, that was a
play clear.
Yeah.
See, I'll be honest. From what you said before, I think you're way too open-minded about this. Like, you can follow a god or just God itself. Like, no, there's a pantheon for the world.
Well, no.
You have to follow a god of that, or the gods of that pantheon. You can't just pick the amorphous whatever. No, what fits that setting? Unless that's your setting.
Yeah, in the new editions you can, but
the new editions are stupid. So
okay, yeah, fair enough. I'll give you that. But I wanted people to worship a god that is the alignment that they chose. Yes. And I wanted them to just, hey, if you follow your alignment, you and God are square. Okay, you and God on the same page. Now, every once in a while, God's going to tap you on the shoulder, and you got to get ready for that. Yeah. And 90% of people are completely cool with that. Completely cool with that. But I have the Legends and Lore book, and these are the gods that exist in the framework of my world. You get to, if you want, you can choose from one of these.
Somebody's echoing.
Yes, big time.
Okay, I have headphones on, but you can choose from one of these, and if you do, you'll get more power because that's what it does. But you will have a tighter leash. You will have a much shorter leash, and God will probably tap you a little bit more often than not.
So in Dungeons and Dragons, for me, this is just the way I handle it. Clerics follow the pantheon, whatever pantheon. If it's Corinne, they follow the Corinne gods. If it's Egypt, they follow the Egyptian gods. Whatever. Priests are specialty priests, and they focus on a god. But I don't let them make up their own stuff, or I just want to worship God. Well, God doesn't exist. There are these gods. You can worship that pantheon.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Then you're a little more strict. I'm a little bit more liberal.
No, I actually follow the rules of the game.
No, come on now. You don't need to. There's just nothing in the second edition AD&D Player's Handbook that says you must choose a specific god.
No. That's for specialty priests, but it does say you follow a mythos.
Okay, and the mythos happens to be their alignment. Would call it whatever you want. I wouldn't call it Scientology, but go ahead, fucking call it Scientology.
The mythos is the pantheon.
Okay,
whatever pantheon. If you're in ancient Greece,
Scientology for this instance is chaotic good, and the cleric is chaotic good. So you have to follow Scientology. Okay,
is Scientology a pantheon of that setting?
In that world, it is. He just
called. Then yes, then I agree with you. But if you're bringing that into, like, say, Forgotten Realms or Greyhawk or whatever, I'll call bullshit on that.
No, those are specific made worlds. Those are frameworks that you buy, and you have to follow the rules or nothing works. There are certain rules.
Okay, I just wanted to get that clear. Yeah, okay, so now we're on the same page.
If you're making your own world,
right,
you can just say, hey, you follow the gods of your alignment. And as long as you don't stray from your alignment, you and your God, you're square, right? Yeah. Fine.
If you're making your own rune, you can have whatever cosmology you want.
Exactly, right? Yeah, whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah. But if you go to Kryn, you must pick a specific god. If you go to Greyhawk or other places, you may have to pick a specific god, or you may have to pick a specific pantheon. Or if you want to make an Egyptian only setting, then you have to pick an Egyptian god or the general Egyptian pantheon if you're being liberal, whatever.
Well, I mean, a lot of the priests actually, but if you're using true ancient Egypt, worship like the entire
Well,
pantheon.
yeah, I mean the like you know the like the Indian gods, it gets weird. Like you can
Well, the Japanese gods, it gets worse. They have a god of a toilet. I mean, come on.
Yeah, it gets weird.
There
But
should be. There should
yeah.
be a god of the
You-
toilet.
I mean,
then
like-
there's billions
like-
of shrines everywhere that you got to do stuff.
Yeah.
You know, put a flower in it or a candle.
That's funny though, because Shintoism actually isn't as religious as people think. It's more just tradition. Like half the time, it's not even based in anything like religion, or what we would call religion.
Right. Yeah. Early editions of the game, the cleric was more concerned as far as gameplay, with violating their specific alignment. The gods didn't, the pantheons didn't have any, in the early days, didn't have any rules of the road. So you go with the alignment because that's what you got.
Yeah.
But and that's what made playing clerics in the early days easier. And I don't remember anybody worrying about them. It was the paladins, and Bruce is right. People don't like being lawful good for some.
Yeah, it wasn't paladins. It was being forced to be lawful good and having the restriction of how much stuff you could have.
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole tithing.
For some reason, nobody wants to be Captain America.
Yeah,
Look,
exactly.
You get all these powers, and you're going to complain about that you have to sacrifice a little bit. Screw you.
Yeah. No.
It's so dumb.
It's the whole concept of sacrifice with the paladin of humility, of humbleness, of that. That's the entire.
I'm not wearing the right shirt. Players are the natural enemy of a good story. All right. Yeah. And paladins, because of their restrictions and the tightrope they have to walk, they themselves create a great story around them if they do it right.
It's not that tight of a rope, really.
True enough. I believe you're right, but
being lawful good is not. I mean, okay, so if you go and say something like, Sir Derek, this is an angel pops in front of Sir Derek, who's a paladin. Sir Derek, we've detected that you thought you thought about that chambermaid over there, and you thought about why her boobies would be so good. You're no longer a paladin now. I mean, you don't get that strict.
No.
It's all actions. So
yes.
If you are forthright,
Well, there are some things that can take paladin's power away, even if it isn't within the paladin's control.
Charmed. Yeah, if they are mind controlled or charmed to doing something outside of their alignment or against their god, they are held accountable.
But that's what the atonement spell is for. So.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but you may not be high enough level to have access to an atonement spell, or you may have done the bad thing.
You wouldn't do it for yourself. But you could go to a church and get the atonement spell done. Usually, it requires some sort of quest or something anyway.
Yeah,
I don't know that you necessarily have to have the spell cast.
Yeah, you just have to do an atonement.
You just have to atone.
There is the spell atonement for that very purpose.
Yeah, there is. That is absolutely true. But if you're higher level, then you may have access to that from the church. But if you're a lower level paladin and you got yourself charmed, well, then you better do your atonement quest on your own just to learn your lesson, chump.
Yeah.
That's what I would do. I wouldn't give a first level paladin an atonement spell.
No, you don't give them the spell. You give them access to the church, and the church says, "Okay, once you do these things, you will be atoned."
No. Yeah. Well, you go on your quest, and you atone. You don't need an atonement spell to.
Yeah, you do.
You don't.
You need something more than just, "Oh Lord, I'm sorry."
No. You have to.
Atonement requires a quest.
Exactly. Atonement requires a quest. It does not require the atonement spell. The atonement spell makes it easier. But it doesn't require the atonement spell to atone with your god. It requires a royal
quest.
Hopefully not that bad, because that sucked. But a just as or a little bit more significant good than the evil that you did, and then you can be atoned with GM approval. That's great. Awesome sauce. You're good to go. The atonement spell is for I really only have that for paladins in good standing with the church, that they understand that he would never do that because of his past actions, and it's almost certain he was controlled, and then they would use the atonement spell to make his quest and atonement stuff easier. Awesome. Okay, I can get that too. But if you're a 1 through 4 level paladin chump, the church is still vetting you. You know, it's still, you know, they have faith in you, but they have no proof in you. You know, like people are fallible. You know, the church is not. So they're not going to waste an atonement spell on someone who may have done it on purpose. You know, so you know, F you, do it yourself.
Anyway, so we're getting into the weeds, and we're so cosmology is more of a mile high view of everything, in my opinion, rather than all the details, although they're connected. So Bruce wanted to talk about cosmology and how that,
because cosmology leads exactly to the weeds, like where we're at right now.
it
I don't know.
can, sure.
Max gave me homework, so.
Oh wait, let's listen to the OGGM. He's got homework. We have to let him turn it in, and then we're all going to grade it.
Well, there were some questions about the nonsense that is the Forgotten Realms deities, but Max had asked what happens when a cleric leaves the area where their god is domain. So if Max is a cleric of, you know, Steve, the god of the sun.
This is not a question that I actually posed. I just put out examples for you. Let's be clear about that.
His homework. He came and he was knocking at my door and he's like, I need to know this. So the best answer I could get from multiple sources is there is no hard and fast rule for what happens if you leave the domain of your god and go to a different domain. The general assumption is that you were treated like an ambassador of your god, and the representatives of the other god might accept you as an ambassador, or they might not. The real life example, of course, would be both the Roman legionnaires and the Crusaders carried iconography of not only the Christian god, but the Roman legionnaires carried Egyptian iconography, Jewish, Christian. Every place that they had conquered, they carried the symbols of the gods. So when they went into new areas, they were seen as ambassadors. So it was like, you've got a symbol of a sun god. It's not our sun god, but it's a sun god. So we see you as we're sort of kind of on the same sphere.
Same page. So I will pass on your god's power to you while you're in my domain.
Yeah,
type thing.
And the Crusaders did the same thing. So yeah.
Okay. Now there are examples against that. In AD&D, I'm going to use Kryn as the biggest example, because if you are a cleric of anyone else and you get somehow into Kryn, you lose all your powers.
Yeah.
Well, we're talking about two different things, maybe. When you say domain, OG, are you talking about like a geographical location?
Well, no.
Yeah,
plane of existence is probably a better thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, right, but
that's a separate question. The first one is what happens if a cleric who's a cleric of one specific god who's recognized in one specific area, like Bob the sun god, and he leaves and he goes to a completely different continent, and there's a sun god, but it's a completely different sun god. So, you know,
as far as he knows,
technically both sun gods, so that domain might see you as a representative and still grant your powers. And for all you know, it could be the same guy with different names.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I think it is, because
and as opposed to going to a different plane, then yes, we get to the thing.
Yeah, if you go to a different plane, you as a GM have to decide if the plane is open or closed.
If there's nobody in that cosmology who in any way, shape, or form reflects your god, then yeah, your god.
Yeah, if the plane is open or closed, like exactly. The astral plane, the ethereal plane, those are open planes.
Yeah,
all of the elemental planes, those are open planes. You can use all of your clerical powers freely, because any god of any plane of existence,
it's like you go to
can extend their powers there. But if you go to another prime material plane or something like that, where your god literally has no power to give you because it's closed, then you're screwed. But if you go to a different continent in the same plane of existence, and you as a game master tell me as a cleric that no, you lost all your powers, I would say fuck you and die in a fire, and I hope someone pisses on you.
Well, then you could say it to me right now, because that's what I do.
All right.
Because
I hope you die in a fight.
No, I'm not that severe about it, but I do impose penalties, because even though the god could, it's a god. The way I see it is, it's a god. It's going to still give you the powers. The people there, if there's a different sun god, to use OGGM's example, the two different sun gods are two different sun gods, and they're not going to want somebody spreading around the name of the other sun god. We'll call it, Helios and Sunman. What's that? Oh,
Melios.
There you go. Helios and Melios. Helios isn't going to be like, it's okay to say Melios out here. Your choice is to either start saying me, or I'm gonna have words with your god over there, and that could cause some problems. So what I usually do is I say, well, you have to make a choice. You either have to. Well, it depends. There are a lot of factors in this. This isn't the only choice, but one of the common choices is you can either start praying to Helios, which is the sun god of here, and then deal with that with your god later when you go back home, or you can choose to continue to pray to your god, and you will get your powers, but then good opportunity to start a war.
Okay, well, a war on what level? A
war between faiths.
Okay.
Obviously, you're a heretic if you're not worshiping the right god.
Okay, so this is a mortal plane type problem.
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay.
It could be a higher problem, but it typically is a mortal plane type problem.
Okay, yeah. Then I can understand that. Like if you go to a different continent and they haven't heard of your god, they have another sun god, then the priests of this sun god in the local area you're in could have umbrage with you, especially if your sun god is a different alignment than their sun god.
Yeah, well, usually gods of death are the problem, because one god of death might be neutral, or another one's like neutral evil.
Yeah, exactly. So but that is a mortal plane problem. I would not have the priest or cleric's powers affected in any way, because
the powers themselves aren't necessarily affected. It depends. There are a couple of options now. There are other options that have been involved as well. Number one, if you change gods, we'll call it, you lose 2 levels. That's just what happens. Like that's in the book. But I don't want to screw you over and make you lose 2 levels. So usually what I work with the players, like if you're clandestine, like guess you're not home, you're not going to be throwing spells everywhere. But I know you picked this class. I don't want to screw you for picking this class. You happen to just be in another area. At the same time, if they're like, look, I'm just going to worship this other sun god, is that going to be a problem when I go home? You'll have to do like 1 deed of atonement, but your god's going to understand. Like I don't want to screw the player completely over, but it has to be a consideration when you start injecting your faith and affecting your faith. Because if I'm out there going, oh, Helios, bring down those flames, and the entire society believes that. What did you say the name was? Melios? Melios is supposed to be the god that does that. It's like, wait a minute, how did this heretic just do this? And then it could be, you could actually cause a schism in the religion.
Yeah, but that is a mortal plane problem. I don't think the gods give a shit about that.
Well, may not.
D&D gods do. They're involved in everything. D&D gods pay too much attention to people.
Fair enough, I guess.
I mean, I don't like that personally, but they do.
Yeah, they can, especially Forgotten Realms gods.
Even Dragonlance.
They're very big meddlers.
Yes.
Well, yeah, I mean,
how dare they?
A mortal can take over the portfolio.
Oh god, yeah. So that's another question. So when I was thinking cosmology, I was thinking like the 10,000-foot view, like you guys are talking about. And I'm not trying to cut off OGGM. This is actually I'm going to segue this back to OGGM. But that's one of the things. Like how does it work in the game? Like is it just, I'm a cleric, I get spells? Are the gods real? Are they not real? Are they just figments of your imagination? Do your gods walk the freaking planet? Okay, OGGM, how do you explain Kelemvor, Cleric, and what's her name? Midnight, whatever the hell her damn name was. Mistra, which, by the way, I'm very incensed about that to this day, because my favorite god got killed in that whole mix.
Which one?
Merkel got what? I don't care about Bane and Ball. Bane and Ball can die in a fire. I don't care. But Merkel's my boy.
He might be back.
Cleric was a douche nozzle. Like, oh my god, I hated everything about him. But that's one way you can implement it. But how does it change a cosmology? Or how does it change the landscape? How does it change the mechanics of a game when you can find out that
Cleric's gone and Miracle's back?
Yeah, and sort of. But how does it change? How does it change the effects in the game, both the lore of the people that are there and the mechanics of it when you have humans that can become gods?
If we're using the Forgotten Realms, there are 3 examples that I could cite, plus what Ed has said about the Forgotten Realms and why the gods in the Forgotten Realms seem so familiar to many people. I believe one of the questions was, why are there Egyptian gods? Why is Tyr a Norse god in the Forgotten Realms? And Ed Greenwood always made it very clear, especially if you read the early Dragon magazines, where it was him and Mordekainen and Elminster in the house together, that the Forgotten Realms was just another continent of Earth.
Oh.
So why there was an Egyptian and why Tyr was there is because Tyr was worshipped by, the Norsemen to Earth, and the Egyptian gods were worshipped on Earth. And so when this continent was still part of Earth, Pangaea, people just went over there, and then they split, much like, Pangaea became the continents of Earth now, and just the Forgotten Realms just went a little bit farther. So that's why there's Egyptian.
So it's the underside of our flat Earth. Okay, got it.
Exactly. Yeah. Now the 3 main events that sort of affected the cosmology of the Forgotten Realms are, of course, the Avatar trilogy, also known as the Time of Troubles, the Spell Plague, and the Death Curse. And the one that Max is talking about is during the Avatar trilogy, Ao, the one above all, looked down upon the gods and felt they weren't doing their job. They were not fulfilling the promises they made to the people. So he, with the exception of one god, he cast them all out and said, you have to prove to me you're worthy of reassuming your role. And that was the whole point. And if you were a cleric during the Time of Troubles, it was both awesome and awful because you didn't have access to anything above 3rd level spells.
All right, this echoing is getting bad again.
I don't know where it's coming from. This is me. Hold on. I'll turn off.
Hold on. Let me...
Oh, GGM, you can't mute yourself while you're talking.
I'm testing to see if it's me.
Oh.
Okay, well, I'll talk. While he's muted, I will say...
Oh, Bruce muted, and I think it was him before, too.
All right, I'm back. Is it me?
No, it sounds like it was Bruce.
Okay, shame on you, Bruce. So yeah, and if you played through the Avatar trilogy modules, it was awful because it was the most ridiculous level of railroading you could see in an adventure. There was nothing.
Oh, that's right. They were modules, weren't they? Tantris and all that. Yeah.
There was nothing you could do to change the outcome. Midnight was going to become the goddess of magic. Cyric was going to become the god of all the shit he became. And Kellenborg was going to die and eventually become the god of death. So even if you tried, but the point was, you're gods, you're not doing your jobs. And if some mortal picks it up, well, maybe they can do the job better than you. So,
I mean, I like the concept that there's a god of the gods. That is kind of neat.
Cyric gets his hand on Miracle's soul-sucking sword. First thing he does, stab Miracle in the back, suck up Miracle's human form's avatar soul, takes on the pantheon of Miracle, and as the story progresses, he's just whacking off all these gods with the soul sucking sword, taking on their pantheons. So when
phrasing,
he does go crazy.
Oh,
no, phrasing.
Yeah,
no one's whacking off gods. All right, calm down.
So when the tablets are returned and everything's set back, certain gods get their pantheons back. Certain gods have been replaced, like Midnight. Cyric's taken on all these different pantheons, and he goes insane. Which is how the other gods that he supposedly killed are able to come back.
Right, so this is a great story for Forgotten Realms.
Mm-hmm.
But how can we use the example of Forgotten Realms, good or bad? Maybe the example of what not to do. I don't know, and inject that into our games. Like, what does Forgotten Realms do good? I have some thoughts on that, and what does it do poorly?
Well, hang on. In the AD&D Second Edition Legends and Lore book, it actually gives minimum milestones to become a demigod and lesser god.
Yes.
So if you meet these minimum requirements,
well, it's just like the immortal stuff from Basic.
Well, yeah. But it's a little harder to get, in my opinion. I mean, you really got to work at it.
I don't know.
But you see, this is a perfect example of where, you know, I'd say we're at odds, because I would never allow mortals to become gods ever. Just gods are gods. I also don't give gods hit points. The Avatar might have a couple of hit points or something, but the Avatar can have 1 billion hit points if I say it has 1 billion hit points, because it's a freaking god. It can snap its finger and affect all of creation.
Well, yeah, I mean that's two different DM styles. There are many myths, many mythos on the real world, in our world, that depict normal people ascending and becoming divine.
Yeah, Buddha, Jesus.
So no, Jesus started out divine.
John Cena. Yeah,
John Cena.
Well, in the Indian mythology and in the Egyptian mythology, I think it would be easier, because you would just be absorbed into Ra or absorbed into the Brahma and become an aspect of him.
Well,
and
so there's a mistake, and I don't want to get to turn this into a religious discussion, but there's a mistake a lot of people make about Egyptology is they act like the Egyptians had 4 billion gods. The Egyptians didn't. They actually only had one concept of God. They just gave the different aspects that they needed at that time a different name.
Yeah, that's why I mean you are absorbed into the one god, and you became an aspect of that god, just like Ra and Brahma, just like that. You know, if it was needed at the time.
I'm not sure any mortals did that though.
Okay, well, if it was needed at the time and it fit into the story, I personally wouldn't have a problem with it if you are sufficiently high level, which means at least level 20. Shut up. But I'm level 18. You can suck it. You can suck it.
20. No. You could be like level 36.
Well, I don't do the black book level beyond level 20 crap. So you know, you're level 20. I believe the Legend of Lore book said you have to have at least a charisma of 19. You have to have at least hundreds, if not thousands, of people who believe you're a god already, and a couple of things I can't remember right now. Yeah.
But that all sounds like it comes from the Immortals book. I mean, I could be wrong, but is it?
Sure,
it could have stolen. I don't know. It could be stolen or reprinted. I don't know. But that's what the Legends and Lore 2nd edition book says. Yeah. So after that, it's the GM's decision whether you will be absorbed into the pantheon. And if you are, it's easier if it's a pantheon that is actually monotheistic, but portrays itself as polytheistic because of the aspects of all the one true God. But if it's an actual polytheistic religion, you're probably going to have more than one God, you know, petition for you to actually, you know, get up there. And that in itself are several quests just to do that. And to make that really, really hard, nigh impossible is a given. It should be a given. Like
I would let characters like go for sainthood or something like that. But see, I also treat gods differently. I don't have them just stomping around the planet like, hey, what's up? You know, I'm just throwing some fireballs here. You know, just hanging out, just bringing in some clouds, making it rain. I don't like avatars. I'm not saying I've never used them. I have, but I like gods to be. You know that they're there, but they're out there more. You're not going to just be like hanging out with one. Even if you use oh god, what's that spell? Commune. Yeah, it's going to be more like dream talking and so forth.
Right. And in the Legends and Lore 2nd edition book, which I am referencing far too much, but I recently read it, so that's what I'm doing. The level of God is equates to the level of communication that God can have with you. You know, if you are a lesser god and you want to communicate with the people who pray to you, you have to communicate through idols or an avatar. If you are an intermediate god, you can communicate through a place of worship or idols or an avatar. If you are a greater god, you can communicate with your followers however, in dreams, whatever, you can just talk to them however you want, because you
can just be Fizbin and just come out there and act like a weirdo. And
well, yeah, he's a greater god, and Fizbin was an avatar of the greater god. Just started talking to him and like whatever. But
Well, that's great for Legends lore, but I can tell you that everything you said does not fit Forgotten Realms, because in Forgotten Realms they all come popping around and talking to everybody, even if they're lesser demigods.
Yeah. again, that's its own story framework and its original, but the whole framework and how it deals with gods. But if your player character got, you're the DM, and one of your characters got to level 20, has the 19 charisma, has the thousands of followers who think he's a god anyway, and then you can actually throw a demigodhood at him and retire the character, and the character should be fine. Demigods don't get avatars. They can't travel planes willy-nilly like full-blown gods can. They, if people pray to them, that's great, but they only get up to level 3 spells, like it's not going to be an awesome pantheon that you're going to create or anything like that, right? So it's kind of like an honorary knighthood from the queen. It's like, whatever, you can call yourself sir now, but that's about it.
Oh yeah, well, at least a knight got land.
Yeah, I think of like Hercules from the TV series. Yeah, he's a demigod.
Yeah, he's a demigod. He has powers beyond those of normal men, and people, the only reason people don't worship him is because he doesn't want people to worship him, and he tells people that all the freaking time. So he's got no worshipers, but he lives longer. He's more robust. He's got supernatural powers beyond what a mortal can have, but he can still die. Demigods can die.
Yes.
Yeah. Then, but starting at lesser god status, only a god of equal or higher status can actually kill you. But a demigod can be killed by a sufficiently, and when I mean sufficiently, I mean greatly powerful mortal.
Yeah.
Right. And this is all cosmology.
It's the same in the MCU. The gods can, demigods can be killed.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah. So if you want to bestow a 20th level character demigod as a retirement option, that's fine. It's not going to change the cosmology of your world, because you are still a minor cog in the cosmic wheel. They're relatively larger than most people, but still you are not changing the course of rivers and shit. Okay, it's not happening. So that's kind of funny, because Hercules actually did change. Whatever. Yeah, but yeah, you get my meaning. You get my meaning. Yeah, you can throw that as an end of the series bonus to your lawful good paladin, or your especially devout cleric, or the fighter that worshiped the god of war and was never defeated in battle, stuff like that. As an ending bonus, as a retirement thing, you can throw him that bone of demigodhood, and it's not going to affect the entire cosmology of your world in a very significant way.
Yeah, and this is part of this is a consideration of cosmology. How do the gods interact with the world?
Yeah.
Can mortals ascend? How?
He froze.
I hate my ISP.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So, right. So, I don't know where to go from here.
Okay. Well,
I know where to go.
Okay.
Can we be done with? Well, actually, OGGM got more.
Okay.
I want to be done with D&D soon. Jesus,
Okay.
D&D is boring.
But Max's question was, what is we learn from how the gods are in Forgotten Realms? And I think what we learned is, from a mechanic point of view, if your god's gone, you have very little access to the powers that you are being granted.
Well, another one just fills its place.
Yeah, and until somebody fills its place. But I think more importantly, the lesson from both times the gods were killed is that the faith was more important than the god.
Well, here's one. I've the last AD&D 2e game that I played when I was still in Germany, I was a priest of Lyra. And Lyra.
Goddess of joy or goddess of deception and illusion?
No, goddess of joy.
Yeah.
And it's funny because you follow Lyra, you can't use any edged weapons. You can only use nets and lassos and all this stuff. And So So anyway, I was playing that priest, but come to find out, Ed Greenwood wrote, and it's second edition. Lyra actually has assassins for the goddess who cannot basically cause harm. If she says, and usually it's oh crap, what's the Maiden of Pain? What's her name? Loviatar, yeah. If it's Loviatar, she basically says, have at it. And you get these special abilities that turn you into this holy crap crazy assassin. It's absolutely batshit crazy. I'm telling you, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's because of all the stuff Loviatar did to her when she was in human form.
But so even the gods, not just can the gods change, different people take the AORs, but the gods themselves can come out and be like, all right, Loviatar's pissed me off. All my clerics now, only when I deem it, because it actually does say that, only when I deem it, if I say go get him, you've got like +4s to attack, you get all these bonuses to the punching wrestling chart, you get all types of weirdness. I turned into a straight up assassin.
Yeah.
Wow. That's something.
Yeah, that's all.
Well, no, that is the bonuses and minuses of following a specific god.
Yeah.
You know, like you get a little more, but you also get you have a
but if Lyra declares a crusade.
Yeah, but that wasn't there originally. That was something that was added into the game. And the funny thing was, if anybody wanted to complain about it, actually, it was the Dungeon Master who showed it to me. I didn't even go looking for it. But it was written by Ed Greenwood.
Yeah.
So it isn't like somebody just came up with this idea, oh, hey, let's do this. No, it was written by Ed Greenwood and this entire change. So, but the god changed from this peace-loving whatever, and we're still pretty much that. I still have to throw parties and festivals all the time. But as soon as she said, go get him, Ray.
Right. So I think what I'm taking away from Forgotten Realms is I'm never going to do it like that. I prefer light touch and less is more with regards to all of this stuff.
Yeah. And, gods working through their mortal pawns, basically. Yeah.
Right. Well, maybe even, one step removed from that. I mean, you're probably not going to get a firsthand message from Odin. Sorry, Odin, might know you exist in a general sense, but really doesn't care much about you.
You'll have to read how the 3 hawks above are flying, in the face of the clouds, and then its droppings land on the ground, and it's still probably bullshit.
Well, yeah, right. No. I mean, if Odin really wants to tap you for doing something, if you're a high level cleric of Odin, he's probably going to give you a dream of the world tree and a couple of crows, and you're gonna
punch you in the head with his hammer. Boom! Hey, wake up!
Nope, that's Thor.
That's Thor.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Couple of
lightning bolt.
Yeah, couple of crows are going to come and caw at you, and you're just going to know what they say, and then you're going to wake up and like, oh, Odin wants me to do this, and then you have to choose whether you want to do it or not. And I would recommend you do, because Odin's a bitch. He can be pretty much a bastard. But yeah. Well,
so Heathen Dog, are you good to talk about the Call of Cthulhu so we can get away from D&D?
There you go. Yes, Call of Cthulhu. Now, this is a completely different kind of cosmology. What we're talking about is because the mythos for what it's called, they aren't actually gods in the D&D sense. They are gods in the sense that people can't kill them, and most of the mythos creatures don't care what you think or do.
The old ones?
Yeah. Well, yeah. The great old ones and all that stuff. They don't really give a shit about you. They only care about themselves, and you're just ants, that they step on. But they are still worshipped. So, technically, if a being is of great power and is worshipped by a significant amount of people, the lowest common denominator idea of them being gods would be true, right? I mean, That would be true. The only problem is that I don't equate the mythos with a pantheon, because I equate the Call of Cthulhu mythos more with an infection.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah. Because all of the great old ones in Call of Cthulhu, you know, Gnarly and the Yellow King, and if you want to go down to Cthulhu, that's cool. But they are all, the more you understand, the less you I don't want to say no, that you know a lot more about things that don't fit in your world, and you literally become insane. I mean, the definition of insanity is you see reality different than everyone else does, and you no longer can interact with the world properly. And the worshipers of mythos, quote unquote, gods, the more power they get, the more divorced from the reality that they actually exist in they are. So they actually
well, the big difference, if you're comparing, you know, from the easiest way we can compare terms, is the Lovecraftian entities don't care. They literally do not care. They do not care how many souls you sacrifice to them to get them to grant you your powers. You are so beneath them. Their acts can't even be conceived as technically evil, because evil has intent. Their acts are simply just pure elemental dawn of time
destruction.
Beyond, well, no, not even destruction. OGGM hit it. Beyond comprehension,
yeah,
and that's the problem.
You can't comprehend what.
Yes, that's the problem. The closer you get to them, the more you comprehend them, the less you comprehend literally everything else.
Yeah.
So you turn yourself insane because you can no longer exist in the world by knowing, by becoming closer to God. Whereas in every other religion, actual religion, the closer you are to God, it implies that you are closer to the consciousness of the universe in some way. Most religions have that idea. You know, if you do what God tells you, you know, you will understand the world in a greater fashion. Whereas in Call of Cthulhu, if you do what your God tells you, you are literally going against what everyone else believes the world should be. And now you are, by definition, the bad guy. Because these gods, it's not that they don't care about life and death. They don't understand life and death. They understand the universe on a completely different level. They can die, but can actually never die. So the idea of pain and death and sadness and happiness is completely incomprehensible to them. So the more you get closer to them, the less you are actually connected to how everyone else around you perceives the universe. Therefore, you are insane. And that is the core of that game. The gods, and you can't see, but quote unquote gods of that game. Thank you very much. The gods of that game don't just not care about you. They don't understand you. They are not giving you power. You are just taking power, which they emanate by unconscious thought. They're not giving or taking anything from you. You are nothing to them. Unlike the gods of D&D, to where you are punished or rewarded for doing what they want. Most of the gods of Call of Cthulhu don't know you exist at all. And
exactly.
Yeah.
So how does this fit? Now that we have a general understanding of the old ones, like how does this affect the game mechanics and the lore of the people? Or yeah, I guess I'll just use lore, or the society of the people in the world.
Okay. In the world of Call of Cthulhu, there is actually no real what we would consider a Judeo-Christian God. All right. Well, no. Let me take that back. There is no evidence or ability to harness the power or faith to make any kind of significant impact in the world besides your actions themselves of a traditional Judeo-Christian God. But the existence of the mythos emanates power in the universe. If you want to tap into that power, the price is you divorce yourself from the reality you were born into. You literally cause yourself to become less part of the universe that you understand and more part of the universe that they are. But it's very much like Icarus. The closer you get, the more sun that you see, the warmer it gets. You are bathed in light, but in the end, your wings are going to burn and you're going to die. Because the sun does not care. It's not that the sun doesn't care. The sun doesn't know you exist. Getting close to it, you don't register to it. It's on a consciousness beyond what can communicate with you. So it doesn't see you. You can bask in its light, but the closer you get to it, you're going to get burned.
So as a Call of Cthulhu player, you don't start out as someone desiring to find one of the great old one's books and reading and then comprehending it. That's
hang on. As a beginning Call of Cthulhu player, you will want to understand the enemy, right? So you will crack that book and you will read it and you will start going insane. But
that sounds like a bad play to me.
But it's a human play. It's a human play, right? I mean, if you are fighting a cult that has supernatural power, you will want to study that supernatural power to counter it, to win the day, to defeat the cult. But
does that ever work, though?
Yes, it does. The first
look, when you see the 5-year-old crab walking with the head turned 180 degrees up on the ceiling, you're going to want to figure out what caused that.
Well, yeah. You're going to want to study that to figure out how to make that stop happening.
So you might take one for the team and grow an extra limb outside of your head.
Exactly.
So that you can stop Cthulhu for today.
Yes, but that is the slippery slope. That's where it starts. You take one for the team, you read the book, you figure out the counter incantation, and you stop the cult from summoning whatever thing they were trying to summon, using fire to fight fire. And it worked. Outstanding.
Now you know.
Yeah.
But now you know.
And now you know, and your sanity has gone down. But not gone down enough to where you actually notice it yet. No. Now you have tools in your toolbox to fight the next cult or the next bad thing. And every time you use mythos magic, every time you use mythos knowledge, every time you do this, you slip further and further into insanity. And then by the time you figure out that what you're doing may be harmful to, everybody ever who lived in the universe ever that you care about, it's probably too late. And you're done. You are completely gone. Now, in Call of Cthulhu, getting to 0 sanity does not kill you. You don't die. You become
you wish
NPC.
You did.
No. You become an NPC. And you are now a bad guy. You are not a bad guy because you wanted to be a bad guy. You could have spent every single action of your life saving lives. every single time you pulled on mythos power, every single time you summoned a minor mythos entity, it was to further the cause of good. It was to save a life. It was to right a wrong, to put right what an injustice has made wrong. It doesn't matter, because you are calling upon powers that don't care about you. And the more you do it, the more you understand them, and the less you understand us.
So where do these powers come from, or is that never explained?
No, it is explained. The mythos powers are not actually godlike powers. They are not granted. They are not. They are not. You don't have to worship a mythos being to get their power. It's very much a different kind of science. But the problem is, to work and understand that science, you have to think in a way that is the complete antithesis of the world you live in.
Non-Euclidean.
Exactly. The more you do it, the more you rewire your brain to think in an alien way, until the point where you don't know what's right and wrong anymore, because your brain now works in a way that is completely different than the rest of the world you live in actually functions. You don't actually become a bad guy in your head. In your head, you are just someone who has access to this power. You have knowledge that other people don't. But why are they trying to shoot at me now? I helped him just a year ago when he was trying to be possessed by the mummy lord Rama whatever, and now he's trying to shoot me in the face. Why? I don't understand. Okay, well, he's probably gone insane. When in actuality, to the other 99.99 ad infinitum % of the people on the planet, you are sacrificing babies to form a spell to change the color of the sun, because in your mind you believe that's the right thing to do. You're just insane. You're not evil. You're just now insane.
Did I miss? I'm sorry. Did I miss the answer though to where they come from?
Where the great old ones come from?
They are not supernatural beings. Okay.
It's one part of the answer. What are they though?
Okay. Here they are. Here's what they are. They are evolved. If you want to equate them to anything, I would try to equate them to Babylon 5 first ones. Anyone here watch Babylon 5?
Yes.
Probably not Max Liao.
You made me watch it when I visited you.
Okay, good, excellent.
Yes,
I don't remember.
The black,
I don't remember that
spidery guys.
Well, no, yeah, well, the shadows are one of them. The Vorlons are energy beings, but they've been around for millions of years and have evolved beyond the point where flesh and being mortals can truly understand them. That's what these great old ones are. They are not gods. They are not supernatural. They are just so evolved that they are on a different mental and physical plane of existence than us. The closer you get to them without evolving to that point,
the more tentacles you grow in your face,
the more insane you become, and you start getting side effects. And Max Liao says side effects are tentacles growing on your face. Sure. Yes, that is it.
On that note,
tentacles. Yes,
tentacles.
We are now at hentai, so you should probably subscribe for hentai.
Welcome our Japanese audience.
There you go.
And hey, someone dropped out. OG dropped out.
OG dropped out. Yep.
Well, I was getting ready to say, hey, why don't OG and Bruce pimp out themselves? I will reserve until maybe the end or something like that. But take
Bruce
a short break. Anyway, I was also going to say I need to take a break and take out my dogs, make sure that they don't mess up my house, and I will be right back.
Okay.
Well, my name is Bruce, and I've got a YouTube channel that's been around for a few years. Really enjoy the tabletop scene. If you like talking a little bit about gaming or just various things in the aspects of life, go ahead and give it a subscription to the youtube.com/Bruce Lombardo 75. And that should get you right to my page. And you
All right,
should be
all right.
able to subscribe.
Everyone has this question. Why 75?
That's the year I was born.
That was a big, a lot
Max
of people
is
did
older
that.
than you are. No, 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 no. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, that is true.
That's fine. Max can be older than me, and I don't see that as a threat, or it's just
It's a threat.
I'm not worried about age.
I am not threatened by his geriatrics.
Yeah,
No.
tell that to my prostate. My prostate's worried about my age.
My prostate's just worried about every 4 hours we need to make a visit to the toilet. And
I'm also worried about your age. Yeah.
I had to go in for a physical the other day. Also, when I got this damn tetanus shot.
OGGM says the power went out.
Oh. And well, you can come now that obviously the power is back on. You can come back in. Unless he might have done that from his phone. Yeah, he might have.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. So Bruce, you said you've been a YouTuber for a few years now.
Oh, you're starting to pop in and out again.
2009 was when I started the account, and just started to actually kind of grow it over the past year, starting to reach out, network, etc., and having a lot of fun with it. Now, I've had a gaming stream on the regular for a few years, and my players seem to enjoy it. They like to be able to go back and watch the old streams and such that we've got, because a lot of this all ties back the same campaign world since like 2015, and so it works out fairly well. But I've just now started to actually quote unquote hunt for subscribers or such. So if you like what I have to say, go ahead and give a like and subscribe. I talk about a various different group of topics, from politics into gaming into why are we talking about woke shit again.
It's the right-wing grim.
Yeah. And I hate being that easily identifiable, or at least slottable. But yeah, right-wing grim works. And I don't have a problem with the way that other people might feel or process things to come to their conclusions. I just want them to come across to them on a cognitive, constructive, critical thinking basis. I need them to be able to trace it from where we have the building blocks of this conversation to where they have their final thesis on how they're going to approach this in their life from now on.
Right. And that's where being compared to Grimm is not a bad thing, because he is, he's liberal, but he is a critical thinker.
Okay, what did you do differently with your microphone? Because it was working for a while. Now it's going weird again.
I didn't do anything differently. That's goddamn it.
I think you need to lay down some gold coins at the Troll Lord Games altar and beg them for forgiveness and roll a 12 plus on your wisdom stat for the siege.
Anyway, what I said was, being compared to Grimm in that way is not a bad thing, because while he may have, social views that
very from my own, and that's fine.
very from your own, he is also a critical thinker and will listen to anyone who wants to have an intelligent conversation with him. So being compared to him is nothing that I consider bad.
No, and I just wish he would show up more in our Gatekeepers chat. I know
he's in the UK. He's probably sleeping right now. Plus, he's got his health problems. So
I
was not even aware of health problems.
Yeah.
He's made videos about it.
Oh yeah, he was in the hospital. 2 months ago? For like a week or so.
I was in the hospital.
Yeah, he was in the hospital for 2 months ago, like a week or so.
Are you kidding me? God dang it! I closed out what file I needed.
Yeah, I had 19 days in freaking.
That's right. You were in COVID hell.
Yeah. I about snuck out and unplugged the fucking remdesivir on day 4 because I had a 50 liter a minute oxygen shoved through my body and things weren't getting better. So I'm like, I'm done.
But by the way, OGGM, until Joe comes back, we can't get you in. Only Joe can do it. And he's out watching or walking his dog.
Yeah. Hold on for just a minute there, OG. But yeah, I've had this channel for a while, and I talk about a lot of various things. The one thing I do want to see is a return to form, as far as having a a mindset where we can have different types of viewpoints, but we can set those aside for our hobbies. Because there used to be a theory where you could not appreciate the artist, but you could appreciate the art.
Yep.
And now they're making it to
Yeah,
where
but when they inject when the artist injects himself into the book,
yeah, that's
can't avoid that.
I can't value that from any perspective. I'm sorry, artist. I cannot have you in there trying to narrate it from your own jilted perspective. I need to have the events unfold naturally with characters that are organic.
But they feel that what they're doing is, their cause is more important than the game. Remember, they don't believe in #RPGate.
No.
3-Eye Brian? Brain? Is that Brain? I can't read that far.
Brian.
Right, okay. 3-Eye Brian, howdy.
How far away is your monitor, Max?
No, it's how thick are my glasses?
I thought you could thicker. See bars.
No, the problem is I'm getting old, so I have to do the whole move them down, move them back thing. Either that or start getting. It's not even bifocals. I got to get that where transitions or whatever. But they're stuck on my headset. So there we go. Now I can read it.
It's Rasputin. Raw Rasputin.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't know when Joe's coming back, how long he's playing with his dogs, but I want to get OGGM in here because I've got my topic to do still.
Yeah, and I didn't mean to exert so much onto this group. I wanted us to talk about this because this is such a rich topic.
I feel flexed on. Oh,
I know.
I think there should have been a little bit more definition as exactly what we were supposed to be talking about. That's the only thing that I'm like, huh.
Well, cosmology is such a broad definition. I don't think there's any way to nail it down and actually have a conversation about.
I did try to post, some suggestions, and never mind.
I'm sorry. I work too much, and I don't have a very good smartphone.
No, you and I talked about it. That's what everything that I wrote down, I based on what you and I talked about.
And the thing is that maybe I'm failing on this one because I wanted to talk about how you guys bring this into your own table experiences. We don't have to talk about the whole gamut of cosmology, but I need you guys to be able to approach it from the aspect of how broad or how precise do you want to get on this topic, especially when it comes to judging your tables, when it comes to narrating the story that you're weaving your players through, or however you see your game time.
Well, in a D&D sense, as I kind of mentioned before, when Heathen Dog was talking about Legends lore, I just run gods differently. Now, I know some people that treat gods as God, we'll just say, and there you go. It's all myth and fable. You either believe or you don't.
General monotheism.
Yeah, for lack of a better term, yeah. I've seen it where the pantheons are like that, where they're really far away. They're there. You get your spells shut up. That's it. And I've also seen people go as far as Dragonlance and Forgotten Realms, where, hey, God, how you doing today? Nice to see you too. All right, buddy. Yep, I'm going out here. I'm gonna get the flock. I'm a little bit more towards the other side. I think that gods are supposed to be all powerful, all knowing. I still kind of believe, because it is Dungeons and Dragons, I still kind of believe in the whole Greek tragedy stuff where, that the gods can fight each other. They can fall, as stated before. The demigod status thing. Yeah. That's kind of how I see saints. That's what, I promote, potentially could promote. I've only ever done it one time, players too, or, player characters too. But I don't like gods that just walk the earth, just kind of hanging out. I don't like the Fizbins. Okay, that's just, I don't like the Mistras. It's annoying. Cyric running around, when he was crazy, when he tried to kill Mask?
Yeah, I remember that.
I just don't like that, but that is part and parcel with those realms. So, I wouldn't take it away. But that's why I kind of do the thing, like I said before, where it's like clerics revere, worship, whatever you want to say, pantheons. That includes evil gods too. If you're smiting somebody, you might be doing it for the name of good, but you can invoke the evil god's name to do it. But that's just a general cleric. Priests though? No, priests focus on a god. And like Heathen Dog was saying, that's why priests get usually fewer not schools, what are they called? Spheres. Usually fewer spheres of divine, magic, but more special powers. And I could be wrong, but I think it was first edition Dragonlance that started that.
Yep. They were the first ones to discuss spheres of influence, if I remember right.
Well, the special powers, like, okay, if you're a cleric of Mishakal, you might not get 42,000, spheres, but you're going to have these special powers at certain levels. I'd have to look at the book again to remember exactly, but I think
I haven't cracked the Dragonlance tome for probably 2 decades. So if you said something about Dragonlance, I would nod my head politely and stay quiet.
I don't look at my D&D books much right now as it is, so it's like I'm slowly but surely forgetting more and more about D&D. And you know what? That's why I have books. I can always pick them back up and look. It's like when you guys were talking about that atonement thing, I was looking up like what the rules were for atoning, and whether you use the spell or not, the one thing that you have to know that the paladin loses its power, and while it's on its quest to atone, it gets no experience.
Nothing at all.
You just have to do your thing.
Your second edition, first edition atonement quest, that is a quest that so many players I know wouldn't even do it. I'm a fighter now? Fine. I'm going to learn how to specialize. And they would go about that.
You know what? And that is a valid choice. That is an absolute valid choice that a player can make. And I'm not going to poo-poo on someone who doesn't want to do the quest. Now, if the person doesn't want to do the quest because I'm not going to get experience for it, I'm going to give them a little side eye. Like, that's it.
Well, it does say in the book if a player doesn't do the quest, he can never be a paladin again. So
right, yeah, like that's it, because you're not going to experience. You're gonna forsake your god. Oh, all right, side eye. But take your two level loss for changing character classes. Good luck. Yeah, good. There you go. But hey, whatever, But if the character believes he did the right thing in the situation and the god disagrees, and he doesn't want to atone because what he really believes he did the right thing, then no side eye from me. Okay, be a fighter. That's fine.
Yeah, you're still going to be a fighter with 2 level loss.
Yeah. Okay.
My thing is like I don't like it when game masters just dick over players. Like, oh, you looked at that person, you said one poo-poo word, you lose all your powers. You're like, no, just stop it. Like,
no. There are levels of
yes.
of infractions, and then there are levels of atonement for those infractions. Stick to those levels and don't over exaggerate something.
Right. A proper paladin, though, even if the god said, hey, you didn't do anything wrong, I still want you to atone anyway, a proper paladin would do it. That's just the humbleness. All the god was doing is saying, if you are maintaining your proper humility and humbleness. And a paladin would be like, all right. Look at the Knights Templar for all they had their own little issues, but look at how much time they just spent in prayer.
Lots.
All right, I'm starting to think that Joe's not coming back anytime soon, and mine's going to take a little bit of time, and we only have like 25 minutes left. So I think I'm just going to start if you guys are good.
Good.
All right. Hopefully OGGM's listening. So here's what I decided to do. I decided to change it up a little bit. I said before that I was going to choose between Earthdawn and Coriolis. I've decided I'm actually going to compare the two.
Whoa.
And the reason is because Earthdawn is a fantasy game. We'll just say similar to D&D, but we'll get into some aspects of that in a little bit. And by the way, there's going to be a lot of drinking. Just letting everybody know right now, a lot of drinking, because I'm going to say Earthdawn a lot.
I'm already heathen drunk. I don't know.
You're already heathen drunk. And Coriolis is a science fiction game. So they have very similar, and I'll go through it here in just a moment, but they have very similar backgrounds, similar but not the same by any stretch of the imagination, but they take them in 2 totally different directions. And when I think cosmology and how it affects the game, kind of like what we were talking about before, affects the mythos, the game mechanics, the interactions with the different NPCs, I think these are a really good example how you can take a similar theme and just go 2 different directions with it. So I've got some notes here. I'm just going to kind of read off on them because I wanted to make sure I covered everything that I felt was important. And I did research this topic a bit. So I read the Coriolis book again, and I read the Quester's book and the first edition. So Quester's book from 4th edition Earthdawn and the first edition book to see what it said about passions. I'm not drinking because I'll be drunk by 10 seconds from now. So Earthdawn has passions. They don't have gods. Coriolis has icons. They don't have gods. So there's a first change in terms of the cosmologies. They don't call them gods. And there are reasons for that. So let's just start with Earthdawn passions. So legend. Hey, what the hell was that? Knock something in me. Legends talk about a time before time origin story for Earthdawn. And it's unique between the various name-giver races. So name-giver races are your elves, dwarves, whatever, humans and so forth. But each race has its own origin story. However, it's all myth. There are tales of actions, lots of parables of how to live a better life based on a certain passion's area of responsibility. And I'm trying to use a lot of D&D terms here because people are going to recognize them better than the Earthdawn terms, so bear with me. But there's nothing factual about where the passions come from. Now, the passions are real. Their power can be felt. Heathen Dog's played Earthdawn before. He knows.
Yes.
The way the passions work is... you can become a quester, which is like a cleric. And I'm going to get a little bit more into questers in a moment, but it's not the same. I can't go into the entirety of Earthdawn. It's like I could just keep babbling for an hour and a half, so I'm cutting myself off. That's why I have my notes here. So if I seem like I'm disjointed, it's because I want to say so much more. But there are those who believe the passions are alien spirits, pseudo-gods, netherworld denizens, or perhaps just the collective consciousness of the name givers that took on a life of its own, or life of their own in case of 12 passions. So I have to explain magic a little bit. And just in this, magic is all through Earthdawn. It's everywhere. The talents that people use are magically based. If you name something, when you get your name at birth, that is a magical act. It is part of your true pattern. I think of it as DNA. Other people see it differently, but I think it's just real easy if you think of the true pattern as DNA, just with magic woven into it. So when you name something, when you name a place, especially if it becomes known or becomes literal, like a battlefield, the slaughter of Guggenheim, you can actually have that magic in that area. And it can affect you in certain ways. So there is a legitimate game mechanic theory of the fact that the passions might not even be from out anywhere. It might literally be just the collective consciousness of all the people.
That is actually what I subscribe to.
Okay. Just to be fair, the book doesn't subscribe to anything. The book puts all this stuff out there.
As possibilities?
Yes.
Okay.
So are they just sentient true patterns? They were given sentience by the collective consciousness of the people, and we'll just say the debate is this, and the debate isn't in Earthdawn, but the debate among outside the game of the players who play it. Did the passions create the powers and the earth and so forth, or did the earth and the people create the passions? And Heathen Dog already said, what he believes. I'm not going to take one side or the other in this, although I basically agree with him. So another idea is that horrors, which again I haven't discussed. So horrors, just think of it as super powerful demons that feed on emotion. They corrupt the crap out of you. They can corrupt blades of grass. They're so powerful when they're that desperate. They feed on negative emotions. Well, could the passions just be the opposite side of that coin? Could they just be like the good side of that? And three of the passions were corrupted during the Scourge. Now, for thousands of years, they existed no problem. All of a sudden, the Scourge hit, and 3 of the 12 passions got corrupted. They're called mad passions now. The one passion of bureaucracy turned into slavery, and too much bureaucracy. Too much government. So even the passions could be corrupted. Now, the horrors existed before the Scourge. So if the passions are the consciousness of humans, what was it about the Scourge that changed? and when I say humans, I'm sorry, name givers, which is all the races. Or are they their own unique entities that before avoided that, but now all of a sudden got corrupted by the horrors? Because the horrors are, especially like, horrors like Vergigorm, which is pretty much imagine if Satan created the earth, that's Vergigorm. So now they can take forms, and they have a usual appearance. Now, this could be one of those things that just because this is how it's discussed. Oh, if you see this, that's the passion Garland. That's the passion Astendar. But the forms can vary. So maybe Garland, Dis is a perfect one. Dis is identified, and that's one of the mad passions, is identified as a skinny, almost skeletal-looking, emaciated, zombie-looking female. Like really, like horribly skinny, ribs popping out and everything. But Dis can also show up as just a bookkeeper. Guy, old dude. Can show how they want. And all 5 of us could be looking at the same passion and see something different. That's been known to happen as well. So I'm putting all these lore possibilities out there so that we can bring it into game mechanics in a little bit. Now, the passions of other lands are different. What? The hell was that?
What was that sound?
Sounded like that I'm back.
Oh, okay. The passions of other lands are different. In fact, the passions of Vasgothia, I think basically Scandinavia, I think it's more Germany, but whatever, don't even exist. They died during the Scourge. So now we have passions that can change form. We have passions that can be corrupted. And now we have passions that can die. But you notice I keep saying passions. They're not gods. They're passions because they're based on human elements. Astendar being love and beauty and artwork. Garland being healing, hearth, and home. Thystonius being war and victory. Oh, no, wait, that's Florinus. But war, he can help me on this. What's the? He's not just war. It's like battle and victory, right?
Yep.
Because Florinus Florinus is victory, motion, and revelry. Anyway, Jasperi, which is like the nature god. Mindbruge, which is the god of justice. Or passion of justice. So these are all human concepts. So how did the Vasgothian passions all die during the Scourge? They existed before the Scourge. There have been other Scourges. All of a sudden they're dead. Now, Questers, I mentioned them before. They are the clerics, sort of, just for lack of a better term, of Earthdawn. However, they don't get clerical spells like you would think. They get a couple of extra abilities based on the vision of the god. But the reason they're called questers and not clerics or priests or so forth is because they're actually on a quest. They're on a spiritual quest to live the life through the values of a particular passion. Religion, if you want to call it that, is mostly a personal process. There are few organized religions or cults. Some, but very few and small. And this is probably due to the fact that there are no sacred texts in Earthdawn. By the way, another reason why I'm mentioning all these weird facts that you probably don't care about is because I'm also going to be comparing this to Coriolis in just a moment. They're just stories and parables, like I mentioned before.
Well, except for the books of Harrow.
But that has nothing to do with passions.
Well, I know, but
that's the horrors.
I would consider that sacred text because it's something passed down.
You consider it sacred text, but it's not sacred text because that's historical. That's horrors. That's not. All right. That's not passions. If it was passions, I'd agree with you.
Well, a lot of people would say the Bible is historical too, but whatever.
Okay, so with maybe the exception of the mad passions, even questers don't get into this whole "my passion is better than your passion" thing. All of society knows that the passions exist, and very few people care how or why. All right, so that is the Earthdawn side. Here's the Coriolis side. So the main difference between Coriolis and Earthdawn is that in Earthdawn, nearly everyone recognizes the passions, right? I already said that. But the vast majority don't care about the origin story, and they don't care what the passions really are. Demons, gods, spirits, whatever. Us, our thoughts, they exist. The mentality is they exist. What else matters? And like I said, even questers strive to live in the ideal passions, not look into the history. By the very nature of the powers provided, the passion has already proved its legitimacy. I don't need to know more. In Coriolis, the worship of the icons permeates everything from the superstitious freighter hauler to the factions of religious zealots. So already we're hearing a change. Remember, Coriolis is a science fiction game. The icons are a real force. Almost all people believe in the icons and their ability to protect civilization from the darkness between the stars. Think of that as like the dark side of the force that includes some jinn and some devils. Some old ones from Cthulhu. To speak of the darkness between the stars is verboten and taboo. You don't do it, you'll get yourself thrown out of the airlock by even mentioning it.
Is it like what's in the Event Horizon, the movie?
Event Horizon would be a very good representation of the darkness between the stars.
I like that.
One caveat: Event Horizon's a little too literal, but very good. We'll give it the 80% Pareto solution. Yes. Really, what it is just a cheap way of giving the the game master way to mess with the characters. But we'll get to that in a moment. So in Earthdawn, questers receive powers from the passions, and Coriolis, everyone. So remember, questers receive powers from the passions, right? In Coriolis, everyone has access to the icons. Heathen Dog may remember when I did example combat for Coriolis, and one of the first things I said happened is that the captain of the ship prayed in the chapel, which all of a sudden gave bonuses, only in certain circumstances, but gave bonuses to the group, to the entire group from that prayer. So you're born under the sign of an icon. It's like under a zodiac sign. And that provides you a talent. Everybody born under your sign gets the same talent. Everyone born under the 12 signs, you have 12 different talents, right? By praying to the icons, you can do what's called pushing your roll. So in the Year Zero engine games, you can only roll once on something. If you fail, sucks for you. But you can do something called pushing your roll. In Mutant Year Zero, it's called pushing your roll. And Forbidden Lands, it's called pushing your roll. And Coriolis, it's called praying to the icons. It's not so much praying as it is allowing the power of the icons course through you. So if you failed, you get a chance to roll. But it also gives the game master a darkness point to use against you at a later date. So that's the darkness between the stars part. So once you bring, it's kind of I look at it as a karmic thing. Oh, you invoke the power of God. Well, when you bring the goodness in, evil has to have its balance as well.
The evil slipped in through that hole.
Right. Yep. Yeah. Kind of like raw magic. I didn't even think about it. That's kind of like raw magic, don't you think?
Very much like raw magic. Yes.
Just without the pain. Right. So, and prayer before combat provides bonus dice when invoking that icon. So again, 12 icons, you can pick which one to pray to. And anytime you reroll dice by utilizing that icon, so it has to be something under that icon's purview, you get a +1 dice, +2 dice if you did it in a chapel beforehand. So religion has a game mechanic effect to all characters in the game. Now, like Earthdawn, there's very little canon. Historical canon for the icons. Now, the Church of the Icons has tried to little success because, like Earthdawn, it is very personal for most people. However, unlike Earthdawn, noticeable factions have actually built up, and it's part of the story of the game. Now, here's some recent events, and I want to show you guys something here for just a moment. Did I just kick a cat? Yeah, I did. These two thick-ass books are all two parts of one adventure. And the third adventure, I hope they finish the third book soon.
That's an adventure?
Yes. It's a campaign. Yes. Well, because the campaign involves the icons. That's why I showed those. Like, I just didn't randomly do that. Well, a possibility of the icons. So I have to tell you, there are these beings called the emissaries. No, this is not Deep Space Nine. I won't get into what the emissaries are here, other than to say they're kind of spectral, spiritual creatures from a gas giant planet. And when humans entered this region of space and created a council, the emissary said, "We want a seat on it." And they're like, we're going to have a seat on it. Like, you don't understand. And just showed their power. And so one claimed to be the incarnation of the icon, the Judge. So basically, somebody says, weird spectral being came in and said, "I'm your god. I'm a god. I'm Zeus. I'm Odin." Well, some people are like, that could be true. Well, one of the factions said sacrilege and closed its entire planet off to travel. One of the more uppity ones. Are you getting where Earthdawn and Coriolis are a bit different now, where religion is more prominent here than it is in Earthdawn? I mean, that's the point I'm trying to make to everybody here. It's a 3-part campaign. Only two are released, and these are huge books. It starts with Emissary Lost. It's the presumed death of an emissary, which, if that's the case, then it's also the presumed death of an icon. But we don't know. You won't know until the 3rd book comes out what actually that is. And then, yeah. There's gonna be a lot. There's already been a lot of drinking. The whole first part of this was Earthdawn. So with the arrival of the emissaries, some people have also started to show magical powers. Now, this is a science fiction game. You're thinking spaceships and combat, and people walking around with laser guns or whatever. But all of a sudden, when these emissaries showed themselves, weird magical powers started happening in certain people. Now, it's not fireball magic. It's more like clairvoyance, clairaudience type stuff.
Psionics.
A
little bit sounds like psionics.
Well, clairvoyance has been around long before psionics. That doesn't have to be psionics just because it's clairvoyance. But
mentalism.
It's precognition. It's I don't remember what all the powers are.
It's subtle.
But yes, it's something you're not going to use necessarily in combat. If I remember all the magic spells, for lack of a better term, it's like it's more like stuff you do before combat or outside of combat to tweak events. I'm sorry, I don't remember, but I've only run Coriolis one time. Anyway, many distrust magic. They distrust these new people, and the people who can deal with magic are kind of Cthulhu-esque. They're not insane, but they see the world a little differently. One, they're treated differently, and two, with these new powers, I don't want to say that they're outside the scope of humanity, but you can use that idea that Heathen Dog was talking about earlier to say they're also not all there.
Yeah, the more you understand of one thing, the less you can understand of the original thing. So they're moving towards something else, which means they're moving away from what they used to understand and know. So it gets other people see them differently.
You're right. So I'm going to have a couple questions for you guys here in just a moment, but to finish up. So what I liked about this is hopefully I described that well enough. I wanted to do it as quickly as possible, and I knew if I wrote down every note I wanted to write down, we'd be here for 7 hours. So hopefully that was enough to give you guys the information needed for Earthdawn and Coriolis. But I find both Coriolis and Earthdawn's lack of scripture to be a game mechanic feature to prevent players and GMs from getting dogmatic about religion. And that's a good thing. I feel that's why it was written into both games. Because I think we've seen people get dogmatic about religion in tabletop role-playing games. Not just the real world. But
I think that's possible.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Well, it's that, and it also allows Bruce to run the game differently than I run the game, but still have the same feel. The passions are there, the icons are there, but since there's no historical background that you have to worry about, there's no origin story you have to worry about, we can both just play the game and move on and not worry that some character did something because in the 4th century QXZ, because, can't use AD, the hero of such and such did this weird thing or whatever, Also notice how the two lores have a similarity to them. Not a lot of scripture, not a lot of scripture, not a lot of canon. Not exactly sure what the icons or the passions are, but one's a fantasy game, one's a sci-fi game. The game worlds and game mechanics between them are mightily different. Earthdawn, you only really worry about the passions, and worry is not the right word. You only utilize the passions.
Concern yourself with.
If you're a quester. Or you're really looking for a quester. In Coriolis, it's integrated into the game completely. Every character is going to do something with the icons. So, are the passions of the icons alien spirits or something else? How would you explain? I've got 3 questions for you guys. I'm going to ask them all at one time, then you can take the conversation wherever you want. How would you explain it? Or would you? Does it even matter? How do the passions and icons grant powers to their followers? Or again, does it even matter? Just it's game mechanics, go on with it. And how can passions become corrupted by horrors or die like the Vasgothian ones, or how can icons die if that actually happened? So what are your thoughts? And I'll leave it at that.
Well, I think as far as the first two, I might just not really care. Is it?
I mean, it's not necessary. It's not necessary.
Not necessary. How can the third one? What was the third one again?
Before we go to, I've got them written down, so I can come back to that. But before we go into the third one, in Earthdawn, 100%. I mean, you could do that, and you affect the game literally 0.
Mm-hmm.
But in Coriolis, now we're talking the history, so there's really no need for the origin story, or maybe that's what these adventures are going to be about. I don't know. The third book isn't out yet. But with it being much more integrated and actually factions out there trying to find this information, could you avoid it?
Oh, so you have factions that are trying to discover the true nature of things.
There are we'll just call them zealous factions. There are a couple of them.
Then, I mean, just learning about them today, I can't tell you how precisely I would do it, how I would conceptualize them. I would pick something. I think I would pick something. With Coriolis, I would probably go with Alien because it's sci-fi primarily.
That makes sense. Yeah.
But and then through the course of play, the characters now with a caveat, and I know I'm going to probably get some flack for this. I would say this to myself, write it down. I wouldn't tell the players, obviously. But if over the course of the game, the players had a better idea than I did, I might just, steal that from them and act like
So what about this in Coriolis? Right now, we don't know. And maybe even after the third book, we won't know. Right. But the emissary is claiming to be an icon. What is the emissary an icon? What if even after the third book? Well, if after the third book we know that the emissaries are the icons, all right. Well, that kind of answers that question. We got to go that route, right?
Well, they could also be avatars.
This game doesn't really go into that, though.
Well, not until the third book. Ha ha ha. Ha.
Yeah, I think you're reaching, but
you might powerful?
Be right. Well played.
Are the emissaries powerful?
The emissaries are spectral.
Okay.
Just go there. They're really outside the scope of anything that you would directly deal with.
Then that sounds Avatar-ish.
Like the ghosties.
Yeah, they come from a gas giant planet. I mean, they kind of have to be ghosts, otherwise they get crushed.
Kind of like in the Furies in one of the Riddick movies, the second Riddick movie. They had that.
I saw it. I don't remember it.
Ghostly white M from.
The main. They get a mark.
Yeah.
Helen Mirren. They have a mark on them. The Furians do, and I guess it's placed to them at birth, but they can use that mark.
Oh no! The elementals. You're talking about the elementals.
Yeah, the Furians. No, I had the wrong word.
Not the Furians. The elementals in the second Riddick movie. There was the old woman. I forget her name. She's a dame.
She played M.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, she was there but not there the whole time because she was of a race of elementals who are spiritual beings mostly and not physical. Yeah,
she complained about stuff and then disappeared. It was kind of dumb.
Yeah, it was really stupid. You're right. Yeah.
So another perfect example would be Kosh from Babylon 5.
Yes, an energy being, and everyone sees him differently depending on their culture.
Except for
one of the things I want to be careful of those. I intentionally didn't explain what the emissaries are because that's like explaining what every name giver is in Earthdawn. It would take up a lot of time, or trying to explain the true nature of magic for Earthdawn. That's probably a better example. So I don't want to get too far off the scope here.
I would probably pick something if it was something that would come up in the game course of play. I would pick something, and in Coriolis it would be Alien. If I had to pick something for Earthdawn, if it became important, which I don't see how it would, but if it could be important, I think I would go with they were the creators instead of being created. by the people.
And you wouldn't necessarily be wrong on that one. You know, you just have to explain a couple of things if it really came down to it, like you said, if anybody even cared. Because even questers don't look for the origin of their passions. Questers look for to live. If I'm a quester of Coriolis, not Coriolis. Oh my God! Wait, that's his name, isn't it? Yeah.
There's
the god. Yeah, the passion of greed. Well, he's not really greed. It's more. He's not a mad passion. He's not a bad guy. But it's riches and wealth and so forth. I'm going to become, you know, a hedge fund manager. I'm going to become an economist. I'm going to become an investor, an entrepreneur, whatever. If I'm a quester of Garland, I'm trying to heal things. I'm trying to heal the world. I'm trying to heal you. I'm trying to heal animals. I'm trying to heal a town. You know, you're just trying to live in the vision of the god. You don't care where the passions are. You don't care where it came from. And to be fair, and this is for everybody, it's for Bruce and Heathen Dog, OGGM as well. I'm not asking you to be right or wrong in this. I'm just like, you might have come to find out that you don't even need to explain this stuff. But I'm just interested in, because we're talking about cosmology, and cosmology is something that's going to affect the overall mechanics and lore of the game. How would you handle it if it came up?
Okay, well, I have to go soon, so I'm gonna go next.
All right.
Yeah, we're 4 minutes over.
Yeah, the whole Earthdawn thing with the passions, they are I wouldn't tell this to the players. So if you don't want to know, mute right now. Okay, you muted. Good. The passions were created by the people's belief in that specific emotional standard. You know, the passion of, you know, love, greed, bureaucracy, justice, death, you know, all that stuff. There's a passion for all of them. And when a passion dies, it's because the general consensus belief faded away, and so the passion faded away as well.
So in Vascothia, there are literally no passions anymore. In fact, they've kind of, some of them have just said, well, we'll worship the Barsavian ones. That's fine. Whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
I shouldn't say worship. That's a wrong word for Earthdawn, but anyway.
Yeah, believe in.
Revere.
Revere. There you go. Yeah. And the thing is that once someone, or not someone, but enough people in Earthdawn, because magic is so prevalent, believe in something for long enough and strong enough, it literally becomes real, because name givers have the ability to imbue magic onto things just by giving it a name. So if everyone believes in justice and everyone understands that the name of justice is this, then that becomes real. And something real can be corrupted or destroyed. So
death is maybe a passion, maybe not a passion. Nobody knows, but death is trapped underneath Death's Sea.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah. So it is real. It's just trapped. So whatever. Yeah. But Coriolis. Now this is a different animal. I'm with Joe on this. That I believe they are aliens. They are highly evolved beings that have the ability to.
Are you talking about emissaries, icons, or presuming they're both one and the same?
I'm talking about icons.
Okay.
I'm about icons. They're highly evolved beings that are able to, with their minds, affect physical reality in ways that lower beings like humans and whatnot cannot understand. If you want to go with the Stargate SG-1 with the ascended beings, that would be an example to me from what you described as an icon. They live. So
I'm going to counter you, not because you're wrong, but for food for thought.
Okay.
No other reason. Icons have not been seen. Unless the emissaries are icons, the icons have never actually been seen.
True.
They haven't had avatars walking around. They don't infect your dreams. They don't go, hey, look at me, I've got a pointy hat. It's just the power of being born under those signs or worshiping them gives tangible bonuses.
I get it, but the only reason that we know that ascended beings in the Stargate universe exist is because we're watching a TV show and
Sure.
they're the stars, so they have to, you know, manifest in some way.
Like I said, I didn't say you were wrong. I was just saying food for thought.
Exactly, yeah. But they have rules. They work in certain ways. They can affect the real world, but no one can attribute it to a direct kind of effect. So you pray, and then people can say you just got lucky. You really could say that. I mean, you got extra dice. Okay, you got lucky. You know, I mean, you as a player know it's a game mechanic, but your player character could think that, oh, I prayed and I got lucky, and so I'll pray again because it works. You know, stuff like that. So, you know, they're a little more hands off, but they actually exist, and they are higher ascended beings. Now, number 3, can you refresh me on number 3?
Well, that was all just number 1. Number 2 is how do they grant power to their followers? And this is for both passions and icons.
Well,
and again, does it matter?
It doesn't matter game mechanics wise. Obviously, it was made to not matter in both respects. But
I agree.
Yeah, but the passions grant power because people granted them the power to exist. And so by the fact of justice now actually existing, it can now be tapped. For the Coriolis, these alien beings have, for some reason, unbeknownst to pretty much everyone, give their powers freely to anyone who wants to bring their cup to the tap. You know, it's whatever reason they just do. I don't know the reason. Maybe your book 3 will tell us the reason. I hope so. That'd be great.
There's a little more in the main Coriolis book I didn't go into, but yeah,
okay. That's fine. That's fine.
We'll go with what you said.
That's fine. And okay, so now number 3.
Number 3 is how can passions become corrupted by horrors or die, or how can icons die if that happened?
Okay, so passions, with the fact that they have become real, they've been given a name, and in Earthdawn, names mean more than in our world. They actually create. If
you change your actual name in Earthdawn, your true name,
change who you are. You actually change the person you are. So if you give something,
lose all your talents.
Exactly. If you give something a name, you give it existence. You give it meaning. You give it tangible and identifiable characteristics. So now it's real. Anything real can be damaged. And so
if it bleeds, we can kill it.
Exactly. It's now real. It can be damaged. It can bleed. It can be changed. And for the icons in Coriolis, they are, well, I've already said that.
This only presumes that the only way this is true is if the icon is an or if the emissary is an icon.
Well, no, if the emissary is an avatar of an icon, or if the emissary is someone who has been altered by the alien race that I believe the advanced alien race that I believe the icons are, to be an intermediary between the higher level of plane that they exist on and the lower level of plane that humans exist on. They are the intermediary. Again, Stargate SG-1, if anyone's watched it, the priors would be the emissaries of Coriolis. They exist in an intermediate space, allowed to affect the physical world, but with powers that are supernatural coming from the ascended beings that they have attached themselves to. They are the middle ground. They are the workers of the icons on the physical plane, the direct movers of the will of the icons, rather than just praying to them. And you could probably say it's luck and whatever.
Without having knowledge of Coriolis, I will say that your examples were good ones. Unfortunately, almost none of what you said actually happens in Coriolis. But you actually did present in a way that if icons and emissaries are linked, whether avatars or the incarnation, I think that's the word that they used in Coriolis. If they're one and the same, then yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head conceptually.
Yeah, with the idea, right?
It's hard when you don't know the exact world. So I get it.
Yes, that is true. But that is my take on your 3 questions. I hope I entertained everyone, but now I have to go because there's something I have to do before I pass out from being too heathen drunk.
Bye,
Have a good one.
dog.
Be well, heathen dog.
All right, thank you, everyone. Everyone have a good night.
You too, man. Before I ask anybody else if you want to follow up on that, Bruce, this answers your question right here. These 2 books. These books are all about. I mean, this isn't a religious war, but it's about an emissary that dies, and you're trying to figure out how and why. So you're talking about that, the whole, you got the temple to come back to and so forth. Well, religion is such a big part of Coriolis that see how thick these things are. That's 2 of 3, and I cannot wait until the 3rd one comes out. Because so far, reading this has been quite interesting.
I missed part of your explanation of Earthdawn. Sure. But while I was taking out my dogs, I was thinking that while with the D&D side of things, good night, Noro.
Good night, Nora.
We've neglected to talk about magic in general, because in that game, the divine and the arcane are separate.
Well, one of the things that I wanted to talk about, if we were going to do it, that's actually why I did mention magic for Coriolis here.
Yeah.
I didn't really mention the quester powers because that would just get in.
That's a little bit too in the weeds for what we're doing.
Yeah, and it's not like being a cleric. You only get a couple of extra I shouldn't say little. You get a couple extra abilities that focuses on the concept of what your passion is. But think of Dragonlance, though. Dragonlance, whether you admit it or not, wizards and Dragonlance are actually clerics.
Right.
Especially priests of the gods of the moons.
Yes. And quite, well, the black... Is the black the one that's with the most rapid advancement? Yes,
but they can only ever have, I think it's 1 9th level spell. They get it at level 14, but it's 1 9th level spell. On the flip side, the white robe mage is going to have like 3 of them, but they don't get their first 9th level spell until like I think it's level 18.
And each one of those have only 1 head of their order.
Yes.
And they are the only ones that cast the 9th level spells, and some of them, the 8th and 9th level spells.
I'm not sure if it's 9th level spells. I think if there's a level cap, like the black robes only allow somebody to get to like level 12 or something like that. I think it was a level cap. It doesn't matter.
I looked at it recently. It's yeah, because it's something that I was kind of curious about. But anyway,
I mean, I might be wrong.
Yeah. Anyway, the cosmology in D&D doesn't talk about how magic works. Only that it does.
Right.
The most you get is there's a magical force that wizards and their ilk learn how to manipulate.
Well, if I remember correctly, and I'm not going to get this word for word verbatim right, but in like in Faerun,
yeah, they have the weave. Is that the weave?
Yeah, right, that's the weave. In Dragonlance, it's from the gods.
Right.
I don't know what Greyhawk is specifically, but the way I've read, the little bit that I've read, is it's just a matter of it's just a tangible force, esoteric language, tangible force that's out there. It's like, earth, water, fire, magic. If I understood that correctly.
Not unlike midichlorians.
There you go.
So yeah, I just brought that up not to derail anything.
No. That's a great concept because that's what I wanted to do with talking with the Coriolis and Earthdawn thing, is compare how different it is. Because one of the things that I like about both Coriolis and Earthdawn compared to D&D is you don't have gods stomping, boom, 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 across the earth. And that's one of the things I always kind of felt was cartoonish about D&D. Even the Greek gods didn't walk around, and the Roman gods didn't walk around the planet as much as the D&D gods do.
No, but I think what happened is the Greenwoods of the world took how Odin, no.
Zeus was the one who slept
Zeus. Zeus was the one running around all the time. not really too much. The only reason Hera was because she was mad at Zeus for screwing everything under the sun.
Yeah, wasn't he the one that had like 3 rocks put in his belly or something? I forget how that.
I don't know. I mean, in everything, he had Congress with, I think, even animals at times. So he was Randy. Well, in that sense of the word.
Okay, if you don't mind me interrupting here. Okay, so you can only have one master for a Black Robe Mage. That's 13th level.
Yeah,
and I think you might be right. That's right. Yeah, right when he gets 9th and 8th.
And 8th. That's what I was saying.
Yeah, first edition's weird when it comes to that. So 8th and 9th. So one level before that, you only have 7th level spells. All of a sudden, then you get 8th and 9th. Red robes are to master is what? That's white robe. 16th level, and now they get 9th level spells at 15th.
Yeah.
But to the master, you can only have one 16th level. And then the white robes are 18th level, and oh wow, they actually get 9th level spells earlier than I thought. They get 9th level spells at 15th level. I thought it was 18th, but I was wrong.
Yeah. We were saying the same thing in different ways.
Right. I just wanted to verify because I've always found that interesting.
Yeah. So it was the way they kept control, and I never knew that. And I did at one time. It's just something you forget over time, but it's interesting. In just a regular game, you can go as high as you want as far as the campaign goes, and the DM is willing to let you go. But in Dragonlance, you're probably not ever going to be. Well, you might be able to get to be the master of the tower, but probably not.
Dragonlance also caps you. I think it's either 18th or 20th level. I forget what it is. I think it's 18th. The gods won't even let you get higher level than that.
Right.
They're like, it says it like the gods don't allow. If you want to get higher level than that, you have to go to another realm. They'll let you go, but you can't even get past that point.
Yeah. So all this to say that in D&D, magic is not expressed through the cosmology, except for wizards and illusionists and whatnot, only through clerics. The cosmology.
What about gods of magic like Mishra or Azuth?
Well, I mean, for just the average D&D campaign,
right? It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter, irrespective. And that's the thing with D&D; it leaves it up to the DM to craft their own, or go with Forgotten Realms or one of the other campaign worlds where the cosmology and how magic is integrated and all that may or may not be spelled out.
So I'd like to ask a final question here. Now, anybody who wants to cut, because Bruce hasn't commented yet, he might not care. OGGM hasn't commented yet either necessarily on the whole Coriolis versus Earthdawn thing. Like I said, the big dichotomy that I liked was how it's very similar background, but they went in just 2 completely different directions. Mm-hmm. But it also leads into whether it's the D&D, the Cthulhu mythos. How can we use all this weirdness? Okay, D&D is pretty understandable to us. Gods roam around, you pray to them, you get clerical spells. Neat. Earthdawn, the passions, well, they're more hands off. The Coriolis, they're more hands on, but they're distant. The old ones from Call of Cthulhu, well, you go nuts if you try to figure out what they are. How can we take themes like this? It doesn't have to be those specific concepts, but how the fact that we have 4 different concepts that we talked about that are completely different from one another, how can that help us create our own cosmologies and mythos? Mythoi?
Mythology.
Or that. Yeah, I was asking.
Yes. I'm keeping my mouth shut at the moment.
A lot of the work's been done for you, so just find what works for you. I would say, I mean, D&D or role playing is not meant to be a master's course in theology.
No, but we can use these ideas to come up with interesting things. Like what aspects are here? I mean, could we take aspects of all 4 that we talked about today? Okay. A little bit of D&D, a little bit of Earthdawn, a little bit of Coriolis, a little bit of Call of Cthulhu, and somehow snowball that into one type.
So
sure. I mean, how important is the divine to the story you want to tell, and how important it is to the player characters? Then what is the story you want the divine to tell?
So I can tell you almost all of my campaigns at one point or another includes some sort of either religious war or religious versus magic war.
So from
usually in mid levels.
You said the Coriolis is a perfect example where even though they're not present, the divine is very hands-on. It's a very active part of the life of individuals in the Coriolis universe.
It's not so much that they're hands-on, it's faith that's hands-on.
Yeah,
so it's not you have to pray. Your prayer becomes the invocation that gives you the bonus or it's not that the gods show up and just start waving magic wands at everybody. It's your faith in it.
Your faith, which you hope allows you to change the
circumstances. Give me more dice.
The circumstances. I mean, and the in some way the dice are the gods because they're the final arbitrator of your fate in the game, right?
Yeah.
So what story
do you think that's too much presence though, or are you good with that?
If you're going through your questions, from what little I understand, I would say I kind of agree with Heathen Dog in regards to Earthdawn, in the fact that there was, you gave something a name, and in Earthdawn names you say are important, and then the more people who invested energy in that name, it's kind of like working a stone. The more you work the stone, the more energy, there's the shinier and flatter the stone gets. And then that story passes on to the next generation, and the next generation grows it up even more. And then because it's a real thing now, because there actually is a idea that has become real in Earthdawn, then like Heathen Dog said, real things can get broken, real things can get corrupted, real things can die, real things can come back, real things can be replaced. Matter doesn't really go anywhere. It just is rearranged.
And to be fair, actually, that's how I deal with Earthdawn as well. And the reason I deal with Earthdawn, I wasn't sure at first, but once I did find out that the different lands, because Earthdawn takes place on Earth.
Yeah.
You don't know that until a source book later on, but that's first edition. We're in fourth edition. Everybody knows it now. So it takes place on Earth, basically I think it's the Georgia area, between the Black Sea and the Ural Sea. I don't know what the hell they're called in Earthdawn. I can't think of real geography right now. Anyway, so when you get to areas like India and Africa and so forth, the gods are different. Before I knew that, I was like, I don't know. But once I realized the gods are different, then yeah, I feel it's the consciousness of land, especially since Barsave, that's the name of the called the core world for Earthdawn, stood up. It was the only land that stood up to the Theran Empire. And that in itself had a magical connotation to it. Oh, no, I really don't have too much more to say on that. I guess I was going to say, I want to be a little careful, and it's just my brain, the way it works. I can't, it's just because you name something doesn't make it magical. There has to be more to it than that, but naming is an important thing in Earthdawn.
Yeah, well,
usually a powerful event has to happen too.
It's not just naming something, it's also giving that thing impetus. I mean, I could just say doorknob, but it doesn't mean anything until I start interacting with the doorknob. And then the idea of the doorknob travels and it becomes something bigger and bigger. And soon, you have this physical manifestation that has become doorknob. And if that happens, then doorknob can be killed or rearranged or changed. As for Coriolis, again, without knowing enough about it, I would say I would just crib from Star Wars. It's the Force,
and you wouldn't necessarily be wrong.
If you're channeling energy, it's the Force, and these entities, these emissaries, are just individuals who are extremely powerful in the Force and saying, "I am the personification of this energy." Was Yoda a god? Was Palpatine a god? They were pretty powerful,
I wouldn't go as direct as that. I would say it's more the amorphous. Like maybe the icons don't actually have names. Maybe it is the Force. Maybe we just gave them names, kind of like the Egyptians did to aspects that they needed to understand between Ra and Bast and Thoth and Set and and whatnot. Where they did the same thing with the icons, where it is just one amorphous power, because there's the opposite, which is the darkness between the stars, which is the opposite of that, which spawns jinn, which, because it is an Arabic type game, which spawns demons. Where, who said it before? I always forget the name of that damn movie. Somebody mentioned it.
Event Horizon.
Event Horizon. Yes. Where again, that is over. That kind of event wouldn't happen in Coriolis, at least that I know of, but people believe it can happen. That's why you don't talk about the darkness between the stars. Same thing in Earthdawn, though. You don't talk about the horrors. I used to make the guys, every time, for the first few sessions that we played the game, anytime somebody said the word horror, I made them out of character go, because I needed them to understand that that's not something, a word you just throw out willy-nilly. And that's where, again, going back on cosmology, maybe I should have talked more about horrors. I didn't even think about that until now, because it's such... And I'm not joking when I said this to Joe, because he commented earlier. Vergigorm basically is if you take the Bible, the creation story of the Bible, and say, okay, but instead of God, Satan created the earth. That's Vergigorm. It's the easiest way to describe it. He killed some dragons, did some things. It was bad, and then the earth was formed. But when you've got these horrors that are the ultimate of evil, that when they're so desperate, they can pull emotions out of anything that is alive, whether it's an animal, a blade of grass, the forest, and corrupt it. And the passions are the opposites, or could be the opposite side of that. It could be like you said, it could be like the Force, where you have the light side and the dark side. We're just starting to give names to things now that might be unnecessary. And I do like this being a philosophical type discussion, and the fact is you can run it differently than me, but we all can have these ideas that might work for somebody who's watching later. Yeah.
Well, that's human nature. We like to name things. We like to understand things.
Categorize, absolutely.
Categorize. We like to bring things down to our level so we can understand them. We took, whatever it was and made it into religion, because religion we understand, and we gave whatever it was humanoid imagery, because
we're humans.
If you get into the what gods might really be, if they really existed, you're probably closer to Cthulhu than Zeus and Apollo.
I was reading a book years ago on Old Testament role playing and the D20 from Green Ronin, and it was funny because they were giving a small history lesson. A lot of times whenever somebody tried to put an evil eye on you, a man would basically tug on his garment where his testicles were at, and they called that pulling iron as kind of a way to rebuke that person.
I thought evil eye was an Arabic thing, like an Arabic tribal thing.
I thought it was more of something you find in the Eastern Europe with the gypsies and Romanian types, but
there's probably some overlap.
Yeah. It was an interesting little history lesson they gave there, but if the designer said, if you have the player doing this and it's becoming more unconscious as they play, give them a +1 or +2 on their die roll. And I thought that was just kind of cool. In the same way that Max was forcing his players to go, oh, whenever you mention the horrors, because I think that is a great way to get your players to recognize the abject terror people have for certain things in those game roles.
And you can do the opposite. You can give people bonuses for promoting the things that, especially if the world has religion as an important thing. Now, if religion isn't all that important, don't worry about it, just move on. Or in the case of Earthdawn, we won't call it religion. We'll just say the horrors, because that's really where it is. The passions aren't important, but maybe in Coriolis, where it is more important, or maybe in just your world that you're creating, where religion is really important. If somebody is how do I say proselytizing? If somebody is acting in what would be considered the best interest of that religion, even if that person isn't a priest or a cleric or whatever, there's no reason why the god couldn't give a little pat on the head and say, hey, here's your +1. Not much. A little something.
That'd be awesome. Gygax, his head frozen in carbonite, somewhere in a warehouse next to the Ark of the Covenant. He's smiling down on us, and
the Lady of the Lake is going to lift up instead of a sword of head.
He's sleeping in Lake Geneva. Appreciate you guys being here for this stream. This meant a lot, and thank you once again, Joe, for hosting us.
Oh, you're welcome. Hey, OG, I think we did this the last time. If you want to pimp out your stuff, and then Bruce can do that, and then I'll follow, and I will also.
Oh, no Max pimping. Oh,
we'll put Max too.
Yeah, fine, Max.
Fine, Max. You can pimp too.
Actually, I have your stuff here.
Yeah. Oh, there you go.
Legion of Myth. All the stuff is there on the screen. So, Mr. OG.
Okay, for those of you who are listening who are not familiar with who I am the OG GM. I've been broadcasting my little corner of the interweb nonsense for 6 years now in one form or another, mostly talking about what's going on in the world of gaming, news-wise, with a very heavy dose of salt, sarcasm, and humor. Occasionally I get on my soapbox, but not as often as I used to. I'm sure I will be talking a lot over the next couple of days about the data dump from Wizards of the Coast, because it does seem to be the major source of topic for the end of the year. I'm looking forward to all the new stuff that's coming out in 2022, especially all the new Free League stuff. Yay. So very excited. So if you haven't checked out my channel yet, come on down. Remember, I'm still trying to hit that mystical 1,000 subs, and I will sell out. And yeah, so there you go. News, weather, sports, and general internet nonsense.
Good deal. Mr. Bruce.
All right, guys. This is Bruce, Bob Ross Lombardo. You can find me at youtube.com/Bruce Lombardo 75, all one giant word. You'll find my 12-year-old YouTube channel there, screaming for attention.
I necro-posted on one.
You necro-posted on like my second oldest video I ever did. And it was funny. So if you want to stop by, we do game streams. I do a lot of live streams where I paint and I talk. And then I do a lot of panel work. I'd like it if you come down. If you want to see more of what you have here, swing on by, give me a subscription. It's free. Thank you, Joe.
Oh, no problem. And I am Joe. I run a podcast with my friend Randy called Biggest Geekus. I have a whole pile of links here I'm going to show. We are all over the place, hoping to get a bit more traction than we have right now. It's a tabletop role-playing game podcast and YouTube channel, and sometimes we rant about things because we are old people.
Get off my lawn!
Get off my lawn!
Wait, get out of my game!
Yeah. Go back under your rock, you bunch of heat.
Wizards
I was going to say heathens. What's that?
I was going to say Wizards of the Coast has a lot of money this week because they're doing all sorts of stuff. They're suing guys. They're trying to disprove the canon from their earlier editions of the game. They're trying.
I know somebody's going to want me to cover that, and I'm so done with them.
Don't. Leave it to those of us who still have the strength, Max. You've progressed farther than us.
I think OG's a fine candidate for that.
Yeah, it's just nonsense, really. It's all problematic.
If nothing else, talking about it upsets certain other members of the Twitterverse, YouTubeverse. So,
Right.
I've been doing that on Twitter the last couple of days. I think Joe knows what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. I got a bunch. I got like 100 responses or likes to the one I posted today, that retweet.
Oh, okay, cool.
I was like, what the hell? I've never had anything on Twitter go that crazy.
Congratulations.
All right. So, we have any last words from anybody before we knock it off here?
Nope.
It'll end up being kind of early for us.
No. It's supposed to be 2 hours. We're way late.
Yeah, but we're less late than we usually are.
Fair.
Okay, I guess not. And
Yeah.
if that's the case,
the goddess Noro is saying we have to get off. So she's going to yank Max's.
Yeah, I still technically work tomorrow, even though I'm teleworking, and I'm starting to feel a little run down. I was good during the episode, but I'm starting to feel run down.
Okay, so let's wrap.
Gotta wait to see how that injection mutates Max. I mean, look, he's already blue.
Dude, I don't know if you can see. Look at that. Oh, you can't see it on the. It looks like I have a tricep.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
Like this arm, I'm telling you, I look like a meme of a 15-year-old kid who only masturbates with one arm.
Yeah. There was like a second there where I could see it. You hit the light just right.
Okay.
All right.
It's
All
just
right.
really weird that it affected you so badly.
Yeah.
Well, it's we can, as humans, react poorly to foreign material shoved into our veins.
Yes.
Yeah, but you were in the army, right?
Yeah.
We got shots all the time. I don't know how many shots I've had. The only shot I ever reacted to before COVID, second shot, was that stupid typhoid shot. And when they told me I had to get typhoid again, I was crying. It's like, but then they had the pills. I said, oh, thank God. I was out for a week with that typhoid shot. I've had tetanus shots before. Get a little bump on the arm, get a little pain. No, this one knocked me out for like 2 days.
Weird.
It is possible that
I'm old. I'm old.
Well, there's that. You're a little older now. Maybe your defenses are not as great. There's also the fact that I hate my ISP.
He could have already had a bit of the tetanus in there and it's reacting.
Well, no, it's possible. Well, but what I'm going to say is probably going to be looked at very poorly, but it's possible that your COVID shots have made you a little bit more sensitive to things.
Maybe.
It's possible.
I don't know. I don't like being sick, and that shot made me sick. So,
right. All right. With that, demonetizing. Not that we're monetized, but anyway, for all of us here at Gatekeepers, to all of you out in the interwebs, have a good night. And this time, I'm going to end properly.